Morning, live streamers. DC's up first, huh?
Wow. Gazra?
Yeah, I think I need it this morning. I need Perfect Strangers after trying unsuccessfully, Bill, to get into the massive international soccer weekend that was the Copa Finals, I think, on the Saturday night. Wasn't that the case? I think. And then yesterday it was the Euro Finals that ended up going into penalty kicks. And poor England today. It's a good thing we're not in England today doing a sports talk radio show, Bill. I don't think it would be pretty. We think Monday mornings can be bad after Gamecock football losses. I'm thinking it's about times 100, maybe 1,000. I don't know how that works exactly. What about you? Did you get into the soccer this weekend?
Got into Argentina, Brazil. Watched that on Saturday night. But yesterday, had some friends in town and planned to watch the England Italy game, but ended up in the lake, ended up on the boat. Didn't, as you were saying, it was not appointment viewing for me, and so I ended up outside as I typically do, and didn't catch it, but saw some highlights last night. Saw that it was a very intense game, and that, as you pointed out, Italy takes it home in penalty kicks, and then you just brought up a point. I'm kind of wondering, do they have sports talk shows in England?
That's a great point. I have no idea.
Do they? I don't.
No clue.
So now I'm wondering that you sent me down a path of, is there sports talk shows in England? But no, it was the weird thing that I would have never expected yesterday, just because I haven't watched it in 30 years maybe. I watched like the last 3 sets of the Wimbledon final, and then the
perfect.
The actual.
So I watched the first one. We're like a whole person here. We got it all covered.
Yeah. So was it you saw the 1 set that Djokovic lost, and then I saw the 3 that he won. So I don't know why I got into that. I guess because I was actually watching the Scottish Open, and that went into a weather delay, and I flipped over and just got stuck on the on Wimbledon. So that was unique. I hadn't watched tennis like that in probably 30 years since Agassi beat somebody in like 92 or 93. I don't know. It's something in that era. But I watched that, and then watched the actual ceremony afterwards, and shared with the kids all the great knowledge I've acquired sitting here, looking at the TV, watching Breakfast at Wimbledon each and every morning, where they talked about Rufus the Hawk. I think it was Rufus or whatever, and all the interesting things that I knew. I seemed very smart. Let's just say that. The kids were very impressed.
Chris hits us up, says he watched all of the England and Italy match yesterday in the Euro Finals. I think England lost it, Chris says. England's defense didn't seem to attack at all. Penalty kicks. I turned it on in extra time. So, Bill, we watched the first set in the morning, and then we ended up moving about our day. And in classic fashion, my 6-year-old wanted to go play tennis later on in the afternoon and wore a white hat turned around backwards, exactly like Berrettini from Italy there did in the first set. So we ended up doing that. And by the time we had come back, it was in extra time there, that Euro final, 1-1. And my 8-year-old watched for about 2 minutes and was like, why are we watching this? They never score. And I was a proud dad. But then it goes into penalty kicks. And it looks like after England stops penalty kick number 2 from Italy, I thought it was going to be an England win easy. And you got 5 penalty kicks. A lot of times, if you get 1 save, you're going to win that thing. It's a very difficult thing to do, to defend the penalty kick from that distance. In my soccer watching experience, which is not much, obviously. And I'm not here just to try to take off soccer fans. I'm just trying to give you my take here. And then the way the penalty kicks went down, awfully dramatic and just terribly disappointing. I guess England misses their last three. One hit the post and didn't even get in the goal, and then two were saved by the Italy goalkeeper. You got to give him a bunch of credit in the whole thing, and it's not a pretty scene to see England lose. It was very historically notable. I think they were trying to win that thing for the first time in 60 years is what it was, and just did not happen. So I think that's the international leading headline going into the day. Back here in our country, it was the Milwaukee Bucks. Impressive last night, a 20-point win against the Phoenix Suns to make the NBA Finals an actual series, down to cut the Phoenix lead down to 2-1. Major League Baseball draft from the Gamecock perspective, not the best news in that a signee for Carolina, Cooper Kinney, an infielder, ended up taking one of the last few picks last night at number 34 overall to the Tampa Bay Rays. So he's likely headed to professional baseball instead of South Carolina. And I say likely because that slot bonus for number 34 overall, the Major League Baseball draft, is about $2.15 million. A difficult thing to turn down. He's an infielder from the state of Tennessee who hit nearly 510 home runs and 50 RBI in his final season as a high school baseball prospect. Other than that, a little surprised that Kumar Rocker dropped to number 10 overall last night, going to the New York Mets. It was Vandy teammate Jack Leiter going number 2 overall, and the Louisville catcher, the number 1 overall pick in last night's Major League Baseball draft. The Braves head into the All-Star break, by the way, with awful news over the weekend as well, with Ronald Acuna Jr. going down with a torn ACL. I believe that one was on Saturday. Braves lost yesterday 7-4 to the Marlins, and one game under 500 going into the break now. I also caught the UFC deal on Saturday night. Speaking of injuries, and Conor McGregor going down, and that thing was not a fun injury to watch for sure, and pretty shocking in a lot of different ways. Bill, did you catch any of that? I'm guessing not. That was on pretty late Saturday night.
I did not. I didn't even watch the highlights because I'm not into a gruesome injury. That's not what I care to see. But I saw or I read that it was a gruesome or mangled leg for Conor McGregor, and that right there, I was like, yep, I'm out. I'm not even gonna bother looking at it. So no, I didn't watch it. I mean, was it streaming or was it? I don't really get into Conor McGregor. I've kind of moved past him at this point. I find him more annoying than watchable, and so yeah, there was really no interest on my part to check that out. And so, but what exactly was the deal with his leg? Because I wasn't going to put myself through seeing a serious injury that didn't sound good at all.
I don't know if you want to hear it described then, but I'll give it a shot without trying to turn too many stomachs this morning. So it was a ESPN Plus pay-per-view deal. My brother-in-law is more of an MMA guy, so he had been out of town for a little while, had a birthday, enjoyed hanging out with him and checking it out. So Conor McGregor is fighting. Who was he even fighting in this thing? It was Dustin Poirier. Is that his name?
I think it's Poirier, yeah.
I might be getting that first name wrong, but that dude's from Louisiana. It was their third fight. Right? McGregor won the first one. Poirier won the second one relatively recently. Now this was their third one. And Poirier dominated the first round. Towards the end of the first round, he's getting to McGregor pretty good, and McGregor is like stepping back just in a normal fighting stance, and he plants his back foot, and it just good. Yeah, it keeps going. It's weird. It was really strange to watch and see. And as the replays were being shown, Bill, I was just watching the reaction of people I was watching it with, because I was like, yeah, I saw it the first time. I'm good. Joe Theismann taught me a long, long time ago. You don't need to see the replays of injuries. Yeah. And so, no, the guy that beat McGregor was not from South Carolina, D.C. The South Carolina guy fighting in this thing, I guess, has the nickname of Wonder Boy, and that was the one preliminary fight that was not really worth watching at all. It was, I guess, a strategical matchup that didn't turn into a crowd pleaser. But the guy that beat Poirier is from Louisiana. Greg Hardy, the former Carolina Panther, also on that undercard, and he got knocked out in the first round, and then the dude that beat him just drank a lot of beer from shoes after that.
Okay, all right.
Had a good time. It was interesting. The most interesting fight of the night was a guy that had to fill in late, I guess, in this like bantamweight division. He weighed like 135, I think, and got absolutely smashed for 15 minutes. But he just kept going at this other guy, Sean O'Malley, and O'Malley landed like 80% of his punches or something, which is nuts. This guy took more than 200 shots, and they stopped it with like 30 seconds to go because he was getting beat so bad, and it looked like he was hardly defending himself. But I think everybody watching was like, this has kind of been happening the entire time. Well, why are you going to not let the guy finish 30 more seconds? But that was really the first UFC pay-per-view thing I've ever watched, I think. It was interesting, relatively interesting, a little bit more interesting to me than soccer, but not going to draw me in anytime soon, anything like our typical football conversations around here that I'm sure we'll get back into. Jim, the resident Clemson fan, weighing in on Facebook Live, clearly has a screw or two loose here. I just mentioned the fact that England's Sports Talk Radio this morning, much like our Monday morning football discussions during football season, sometimes the therapy sessions that we have for Gamecock fans after losses. He says, good morning. It's so much fun listening to y'all and the Gamecock fans after a football loss. It's what got me listening to 107.5, home of the Gamecocks, since the early 1970s when I was at Lexington High School. LOL. Pretty impressive, considering I think we're going to celebrate our 14th anniversary as a radio station coming up this fall. And it's has been listening since the 70s. Strong. Trey also weighing in on Facebook Live this morning. DC, a YouTube Live guy, up and rolling on that video stream sponsored by Buford Lending. Appreciate you guys making this part of your Monday morning routine. 803-404-6100. If you guys would like to weigh in the more traditional way, you can call that number. You can text that number, anonymous texter. England definitely should have lost in regulation. They had some luck with their early goal, anonymous texter pointed out. And what happened to the Dutch Fork player in the Major League Baseball draft? Talking about Will Taylor, I believe, is Gamecock Will. And he was not selected last night, even though he was the highest on the ESPN analyst board. Overall draft pick, kind of like Mel Kiper Jr. does in the NFL draft. It was his name sitting there for, I think I turned it on somewhere in the middle of the first round, right around pick number 16, 17 or so. And he stayed on that draft board the entire time. Didn't end up going last night, so it appears he is absolutely heading to Clemson and going to play baseball there. For the Dutch Fork High School standout could still get drafted today. Major League Baseball draft continues, and a lot of times those signing bonuses can shift a little bit, even though they have the slot value, depending on what kind of negotiation you have. But a relatively busy weekend overall from like the international sports conversation or perspective, I should say. You had the Major League Baseball draft in the first round last night, NBA Finals as well. Interested in hearing some of your thoughts. There was a welcome home, Bill. Hashtag welcome home tweet yesterday from Shane Beamer yet again. And there is mystery attached to this one. Right before we went on, you gave me some of the information that you have. Why don't you put that out there, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, according to Hale McGranahan with the big spur I just saw yesterday, that I guess whoever it is preparing an announcement. I guess a video is being made for the young man who has made his decision. So a video currently in production. I have no clue who's doing that or how it's being done or who the player is. I just understand that the announcement will come sometime middle to late of the week. You know how these video productions are. There's got to be a shoot. There's got to be probably some editing, maybe some theme music with it. Doesn't just happen overnight. You just don't go out with the old camera phone anymore, fire it up and take a good video. You got to have lighting and production and maybe some stand-in actors, all kinds of things. So the announcement, I guess, will come via video later this week.
Interesting. We haven't seen a long involved one this year from the signees so far, or the verbal commits, I should say, for Gamecock football. I think I've seen some relatively short ones that basically just have graphics and maybe a few high school highlights cut, but I haven't seen more of one like it was Marshawn Lloyd that did more of a I'd say a short documentary that features him in the stadium and that kind of stuff. Have you seen one of those?
Yeah, I haven't. It's been a while since I've seen a video come. I really, honestly, and I'm sure someone has done it. I just haven't either paid enough attention or it just hasn't come across my timeline where they put out a video. To my knowledge, I don't think a player has done it for South Carolina or for Clemson, a video in a while. Maybe I'm just forgetful but I don't remember a video necessarily where a kid on there actually commits. Like there's a build up, and I'm trying to think. I saw the Marshawn Lloyd one. I remember a player, I can't remember, maybe going to Florida or Georgia, who did something like where he was in his barber shop and there was a whole ordeal there that led to them doing this. But I don't know who knows. Again, I don't necessarily follow the video recruiting much like I used to have to, but I don't remember South Carolina Clemson having a commitment lately that has done. I think all of them have honestly been pretty straightforward, just some kind of Twitter or Instagram release. I guess maybe that's the problem. I don't follow Instagram quite like I do Twitter, where kids can release little videos on Instagram, but or which is much different than Twitter. But yeah, you haven't seen the videos quite like we have in the past. Are you searching? Are you looking there? I see a face of puzzlement from you.
No, not looking for videos at all. Just looking at the latest recruiting rankings. It's a 24/7 sports team composites. The Gamecocks sitting at number 16 in the country right now as far as their recruiting class with 15 commits, up a little bit higher in the Rivals rankings at number 14 in the country. And then just seeing how that compares to Clemson, which I have to scroll down to 28 in the Rivals rankings. And then in the 24/7 sports composite rankings, Clemson's down at 32, but they have about half as many commits, just sitting there with 8. So wanted to update those rankings as we get going this week and this morning. Again, glad you're a part of the program. 803-404-6100 is the number. We're just getting started here. It's the early game. It's 107.5 again.
I'm trying to figure out your
where your
music is. Like I've got a couple screens up, and then we popped back on this thing. It was the ESPN. I had the draft tracker up.
tab search.
All right, get some coffee. Drink some orange juice to start.
Good. Jim is texting in, arguing that our station is older than we think it is.
Yeah, I know for a fact it's not. I was there when it started. But appreciate the enthusiasm.
Craig, the word I've heard is that it's not an offensive player, it's a defensive player, and should be one of the highly recruited guys. But just social media stuff. Look at that Lake Murray sunrise. Beautiful.
Can we keep that and keep Bill out of the shot?
Well, we told him that multiple times.
Yeah.
Need to take.
No, there it goes.
So how long did it take you to get out of Asheville traffic yesterday, Jen? For you.
It was probably 45 minutes.
Ugh.
I don't know if it was an accident.
Favorite
so,
spot.
Feel bad when it's an accident, but on the way up, I don't know what it was. But it was the same area. And it just
I have gotten rent free into my buddy Ray's head on the Twitter line.
So
I see.
I now am I have scarred him for life. You have a few mutual friends, and he brags a little bit too much, and they tell me about it, and that's hilarious. He's a little bit too much of a talker.
how about that NASCAR race last night?
So Kurt Busch passed Kyle Busch with 24 laps to go.
You read well. Actually, they were.
I didn't watch it. I was fully invested in Madagascar 3. There was a whole bunch of Madagascar watching.
And we did the Little Rascals Saturday, Friday night. Oh, just not the best acting I've ever seen. Let's put it that way.
Is that the one from like, oh my gosh, 10, 15 years ago?
No, there's one from '94. I think you
Yeah.
might be thinking of.
Okay.
No, we watched the more recent one.
Oh, should they have stuck to the 94?
I don't know. It was tough to watch. Kids liked it. Afterwards, my wife asked me after we put the kids to bed, "What'd you think of the movie?" I was like, "I'm glad they liked it." She's like, "Oh, the acting was awful."
Oh.
They like are 7-year-old kids.
Yeah.
What you get?
Yeah, and that other one, there were a lot of good celebrity cameos and stuff, and that one was pretty fun. I can watch that.
Did you get into anything this weekend? The celebrity golf.
Oh yeah, I did get into that a little bit. Who ended up winning that sucker? Did Smoltz win?
I don't know. I'll have to go back again. Yeah, I'm kind of the same as you. I never really completed watching. I guess I did complete Wimbledon, but
I meant to record it, and we are gonna go try to watch it after dinner last night. And I didn't record it. They could tell me, and they didn't have the highlights up yet. Oh, Vinny Del Negro ended up winning. Maybe.
okay.
I think it looked like it. Yeah, he and Smoltz went in the playoff.
I watched. Was it
Eagle
Saturday?
18.
Saturday when Justin Timberlake went from bunker to bunker, back to bunker, like chipping it over the green. He was a good sport about it. He was kind of laughing, but
I got no room to talk. He could dominate me, I think, on the golf course.
We're heading back in. You guys are up.
Charles Barkley, minus 28 in the golf over the weekend. Typically, Bill, you'd say that was a tremendous tournament for Charles Barkley. Unfortunately, at the American Century Championship out in Tahoe, they played the Stableford scoring system where they give you points for doing good things, and they take away points for double bogeys and worse. You get -2 there. And the winning score there for Vinny Del Negro and John Smoltz, who ended up going in the playoff, was 60-something. 60-something. Negro finishes in third with 66 points I'm seeing there. And Del Negro wins on the sudden death hole after John Smoltz had a little trouble there, but did push it to a playoff there. Del Negro ends up birdieing the par 5 18th hole twice, basically. So he birdied it to end in regulation, and birdied it again in the playoff. And remember, was that? I'm guessing that was slightly before your time when Vinny Del Negro played for NC State back in the day. Yeah.
Yeah, that was,
you just
that
missed
was,
him.
Yeah, that was what, 80s, late 80s.
Yep. So you just missed him. You remember him in the NBA at all?
No.
He had a decent NBA career, I'd say. And then I remember him more as a coach. I guess probably most as a coach most recently. But looking for an old school name, Vinny Del Negro wins the celebrity tour. You were just talking about Justin Timberlake, I believe, off the air on the video live stream, and got to see him. Anybody else pop out at you from what you saw over the weekend, celebrity golf wise?
No, it was. I mean, it was entertaining to an extent, but again, like kind of like I was saying, I never fully. I guess the Wimbledon was the only thing that I stayed fully attached to throughout the entire. I mean, that was only because it was in the morning, and but other than that, no. And I did watch someone put the TV outside and watched the little was watching the Scottish Open in the morning and then flipping over. It was just kind of entertaining. Of course, my daughter couldn't understand. I'm trying to think who. It might have been Justin Timberlake, or it might have been another actor that she's familiar with. And I was trying to explain to her what exactly the tournament was. I think we did look it up at one point because I was telling some people about the price of tickets and it being $30, and which amazed several people. I was like, oh, we should go next year. This would be a really cool event because they were showing I think it was the par 3 that was right along the lake that's there.
Yeah, I think that's 17, 16,
okay,
17.
Yeah, they had all the boats backed up. I know who it was, by the way.
Right.
It's Aaron Rodgers. Because Aaron Rodgers threw a pass. You probably didn't see this. He hits his tee shot. I don't even know where he hit it. It was kind of irrelevant. But he hits his shot, and they do an interview with him. And, of course, the last question is, hey, what are you going to do this year? What's your plan? And he was able to, duck around that and just say, well, I'm just going to enjoy the rest of the tournament, and then, we'll just see what happens. So as they're walking down the fairway, it was him and somebody else. And anyway, somebody throws him a football. It's kind of something they do. You throw it with the crowd. Man, he rears back and rips one probably about 40 yards out into the lake, into a boat, just beautifully thrown past. And of course, the announcers were laughing. They were like, yeah, he could have just reared back and fired it at one of the spectators and seen what happened, to take some frustration out on him. But I was trying to explain it was a different kind of golf tournament, and the price that we came across for like a Holiday Inn, right? It was a regular Holiday Inn that was relatively close to the course, $540 a night is the price if you want to go to get out there and check it out. Tickets are $30 per day.
Right.
The hotel for a regular Holiday Inn, I believe it was like $500 to $39 per night, and factor in some taxes. So you're probably bumping it up closer to $560, $570 when the final booking happens. So yeah, I would probably just continue to watch that one on television.
I was just joking on Friday when I said I'd have to take out a second mortgage to go out there and stay for the weekend. I think doing the math now, it works out. That is crazy to me. 803-404-6100. Other golf news, especially heading into the British Open. Min Woo Lee wins that Scottish Open in a three-man playoff. Thomas Dietrich and Matt Fitzpatrick, always the other two guys. But it's the event on the PGA Tour that is easy to overlook because a lot of the bigger names have already gone across the way and get ready for the British Open by playing in that Scottish. But how about Lucas Glover, former Clemson standout, South Carolina native, 10 years in between titles. He wins it over the weekend. 64 yesterday takes it home for him. Good for Lucas Glover, huh, Bill, the former U.S. Open champ.
Yeah, good for him. And I don't know. I'm sitting here kind of scanning the tee times for this coming week because now we head to the Open. Royal St. George in, I guess it's Sandwich, England. Maybe that's exactly how you say it. It's strange that we didn't have an Open last year. We had all the other majors. They found a way to fit those in, but no British Open last year. So Shane Lowry, still the defending champion from 2019, and they don't have the tee times. I'll have them tomorrow. But I don't know if Lucas now heads out to the Open, if he's a part of the field or not, and goes out there and tries to win himself a major.
Yeah, he definitely gets a chance to if he wants to. I'm guessing he will be. Now, this was his last win, the last time he won, and I thought that had been it. I think he beat his buddy Jonathan Bird in this thing back at Quail Hollow 10 years ago. Yesterday, finishing with 5 birdies in his last 7 holes. Ends up winning by 2 shots. Impressive stuff, man. And seeing on social media how People are calling him old school as it gets and the whole thing. Actually, I'm seeing where it sends him back to the Masters and the PGA Championship and allows him to start at the old Tournament of Champions. So maybe not on the British Open here, but Lucas Glover, big time weekend for him for sure. Good for golfers with South Carolina ties, the John Deere Open where he was playing. And again, that one kind of it was a pretty big week of golf, and we'll see what the British Open can do for us this coming week. I see Bubba Watson will not be playing. I guess he was a close contact of a COVID case, so he's not making the trip there. Masters champ Hideki Matsuyama also had to pull out of this thing, so not a great way to start on a Monday of British Open week, but we'll keep tabs on that. We'll have it on the back end of the weekend to continue kind of this international swing. As you said, you watched Wimbledon over the weekend. I watched a little bit of that, and then the international soccer weekend going down as well. I guess helping us to get to SEC Media Days, which will be kicking off a week from today over in Birmingham, with all the college football discussion kicked into high gear with the name, image, and likeness. I didn't see a bunch of that stuff popping out over the weekend. I guess I did see yesterday, I think on social media, RJ Roderick signing with an agent that will help him navigate through the name, image, and likeness stuff. But that's the only real movement that I saw of any kind of note from the Gamecock perspective, especially Bill. Anything pop out from the name, image, and likeness standpoint for you on social media?
No, nothing from a name, image, likeness standpoint. There was a commitment for Miami on Friday night. Chris Graves, a defensive back who chooses Miami over LSU. South Carolina had gotten an official visit, but South Carolina was not really in his top group. Right now, anytime Miami gets a commitment, even if it's a Miami kid, my instant thought is, how much did the $500 or name, image, likeness of what Miami's doing play into that? It was interesting that Chris Graves cited one of the big reasons he picked Miami was a conversation he had with J.C. Horn, where J.C. Horn endorsed Travaris Robinson as a defensive backs coach that got him to the league, and helping Chris Graves make that decision. Graves was considering South Carolina, did take an official visit, but really South Carolina not in his top 2 or top 3, so they were not really under consideration when he narrowed down his list. And from what I understand, it really came down to LSU and Miami as being his top choices, but it was Miami the pick for him. And again, my first thought was the name, image, likeness thing, and I think that's just how I see. Anytime a kid commits to Miami now from anywhere, that's where my mind kind of goes. Well, how much did that play into it? In this situation, Graves did come out and say, well, Travaris Robinson was the reason. He was a big deal and the reason that I ended up choosing the University of Miami. And it was J.C. Horn who highly recommended him because of his development and becoming the first defensive player picked in this past draft.
Interesting, especially knowing that there was the tweet put out by Shane Beamer yesterday, the welcome home deal that has been unnamed. And you say that Hale McGranahan from thebigspur.com reporting that a video is in the works. Sonny is guessing that it's a cornerback from up in Pennsylvania. I think he says with the last name Nelson, possibility there. And I think Craig is hoping it's Oscar Delp or Antonio Williams, the Dutch Fork High School wide receiver. I think I've seen some social media discussion where it doesn't appear to be either one of those guys, and Sonny might be more spot on with his guess than the other guys. That sound right to you, Bill?
I think that Nelson is definitely a guy that it could be. I'd be surprised, shocked if it was Oscar Delp or Antonio Williams. I think Antonio Williams is going to wait the season out and see if Clemson is going to offer. Also, I think he'll see how South Carolina's offense looks and how exactly that kind of plays out for him. So I don't think it's Antonio Williams. I think it's I would lean Keenan Nelson is the guy, but we'll see. You never know. South Carolina's in on a couple other players, and certainly guys they need to continue to improve that roster. Nelson would be a huge pickup, taking another kid out of the state of Pennsylvania that has a legitimate Penn State offer that James Franklin and his staff are wanting.
Did it surprise you to see another welcome home over the weekend, knowing that it's a dead period for Gamecock recruiting right now? I mean, college football recruiting everywhere. I think it's basically a 3-week dead period, I think, after the busiest month that college recruiting has ever seen after things opened up in June. And then the last week, I think, is when you told us that their cookouts planned and kind of a regathering of commits or guys that are interested prospects on campuses all over the place?
It wouldn't. No, it doesn't surprise me just because you get kids who now have kind of had time to process everything in the month of June, whether it was camps or whether it was going to camps or whether it was is taking official visits or whatever. Even though it's a dead period, I can see where kids have had time again to process, to talk to family members or to mentors, and they're saying, okay, this is when I'm ready to make the decision. And then you go ahead and get it out of the way because high school practice should be starting, I would guess, here maybe in the next 2 to 3 weeks. Maybe you don't want to worry about whatever recruiting you got to deal with during the season. There are some cookouts, as you mentioned, when the period opens back up. So maybe they want to go and help be a part of that class and recruit other players to that particular school. So no, not a huge shock. And I think I think it'd actually be more of a shock if you don't see maybe one or two other guys pull the trigger on a commitment for South Carolina or Clemson over the next 2 weeks, just to go ahead and get in the boat and have recruiting wrapped up before they start their senior year of football.
Bit of the quiet before the storm with a relatively quiet weekend from the college football perspective. Again, this time next week, we'll kick off SEC Media Days over in Birmingham, and Shane Beamer in South Carolina will be a part of day number 1 of the 4-day event going on over there. I'm interested, and like we talked about last week, especially to hear the perspective of these coaches and players now of name, image, and likeness, and how college football will be really, I guess, the first sport that we'll see in a big time way that's immediately affected about this. We heard from Frank Martin last week, though, just saying what a massive impact it's already having on college basketball, especially from a recruiting standpoint. And then I guess we did see over the weekend as well. You mentioned Frank did a 7-figure deal, and there was a guy who signed out of high school for 7 figures in this new league. Bill, did you see that as well?
Yeah, Jalen Lewis, I believe his name, a rising junior, or I don't know if he's a rising senior or rising junior. He was 16. I know that. Now it's dawned on me. I'm not sure which class exactly he was in. I don't know if that's who Frank was talking about. I was under the impression it's another kid named Imani Bates who actually had like a marketing deal probably already in the works. And then I kind of brought this up to a few other people that I know over the weekend just to see if that was right. Nobody was exactly sure. I mean, obviously Frank knew of something, and maybe it was Jalen Lewis, but at the end of the day, man, this is where college basketball is a little bit ahead of the game on this in terms of what kids can go and do and get into a system earlier. Now you've got the G League where you don't have to go to college. Obviously, this is the first time $1 million deal for a kid to go overseas and play with a organization, Overtime Elite, which I'm just now learning a lot about because I was not familiar with them until this past weekend. So I'm interested to see now how this starts to impact the entire landscape of college basketball, because when we talk about kids, if you've always been in favor of getting to some kind of rule where kids can go to the pros straight out of high school and not even have to worry about going to college, well, then you're in a situation now where that's really pretty legit to happen, and kids that go to college might not be the kids who are necessarily going to be one-and-doners. So it'll be kind of interesting to see how that kind of plays out over the next 2 or 3 years. By the way, they might have already removed him. I've never felt older than I do right now, looking at the number 1 player in the 2023 class. Tim, you want to guess who it is? It's a player he's a rising junior. He is the son of a player that South Carolina played in an NIT game.
Okay. That doesn't narrow it down a ton, but is that the same player's name and he's now just a junior? Is that what it is? Or they just it's not Jeff Green Jr., is it, out there?
No. Mm-hmm.
Jeff Green's still playing in the NBA. Okay. Let's go. Can we go a program, or will that give it away if you tell me the program that Carolina played in the NIT?
I'll tell you this. The player, I'm looking at 24/7 Sports. This makes me feel so old. The player was an elite high school, maybe number 1 in his class prospect. Okay. The coach he played for at Stead University. The coach is now at a different university, and the little crystal ball system that they've got on this is projecting that player to go and play for that coach.
Carolina played Calipari in Memphis back in the day, didn't they? And now he's at Kentucky, right? And that's where it's happening. But I don't remember who that player was exactly. And I'm sure as soon as you tell me, I'll.
Do you remember DeJuan Wagner?
Ah, of course. DeJuan Wagner, who ended up, he was one of the first one and doneers, I believe, right? And then the NBA career did not work out. I think it was an injury that ended that thing pretty short. I believe was the DeJuan Wagner story. But that's the part of the national championship that got taken away from Memphis, I think. The NCAA, I want to say.
Never won a championship. That was Derrick Rose was the guy that was on that team.
Right.
They almost won, and it was Chalmers who hit a 3-pointer from the wing that kept them. I think Rose might have missed a free throw too, if I remember correctly. There was some free throw. That was a while back, but yeah, he played one season. Wagner played one season at Memphis and was actually pretty good. He contributed 16 points in the NIT title game against South Carolina and earned several NIT and conference honors. I think Memphis won that game too. So it says here, it says John Calipari revoked Wagner's scholarship after his freshman year to force him to enter the NBA because Calipari believed Wagner should not avoid the money he would receive as a first-round pick.
Oh, speaking of that, that's interesting. Win Pelzer, former Gamecock baseball player, I saw he had a social media tweet, I think yesterday or last night, probably during the Major League Baseball draft, just saying that he had a bunch of teammates, I think, in college that never ended up getting back to the number that they would have gotten had they had gone pro out of high school. And he just said he sees all the social media posts this time of year and is sick of people not at least admitting to their bias, probably talking about those involved in college baseball, talking about the advantages of going to college baseball. It's not always just that story being told, I think, is what the former Gamecock Win Pelzer, with his point on social media, I saw pop up yesterday. And again, the Gamecocks with a signee getting drafted in last night's first round. Give you more details on that as we continue to roll on this morning. Time for us to take a quick break. It's the early game. It's 107.5 The Game.
The home of the Gamecocks and new head coach.
That was a trip down memory lane with DeJuan Wagner.
Yeah, that's when you know you're old.
I didn't realize Wagner himself is a year younger than me.
Right. And I thought you got married and started having kids early with almost having a teenager.
Yeah.
He's got the number one prospect in the country, huh?
So this weekend we got the British Open, and then we've got the SEC Media Day next week.
Yep. I got the Home Run Derby tonight, All-Star game tomorrow.
Oh, okay. We're at that point of the summer.
Yep.
Did you mention the Acuna stuff?
Just briefly.
I couldn't remember if you did or not.
I mentioned it, and then it reminded me of the McGregor thing, so that probably blacked it out for you.
Yeah. You started going to that McGregor description. I wanted to turn off my headset, and you just said step backward.
Okay, I mean, he just went back to like playing his foot like normal you would do in fighting, and it was not a normal reaction. Because I guess the way it happens in that sport often is that if you kick somebody, sometimes you can break your leg just kicking someone.
Right.
Apparently that happened, and then it just you can see
finished it when he stepped back.
Right. As he was stepping back and playing.
Nice.
Still one of the dumbest sports in my opinion, but I guess that's just I don't understand the finesse of it.
Right. Well, that's what was the interesting part for me to watch they had like 5 fights, I think, as part of the main events, and they were all really distinctively different.
Really?
Yeah.
How so?
Well, there are different like disciplines in MMA, as I understand it, that you can kind of major in, that you come at it from. If you're a striker, it looks more like boxing, like you stand and then the one dude from South Carolina, I guess, was a really big time kickboxer. So it was his strategy to like stay away, and he wanted, but the other guy was like a jujitsu guy, so he wanted to like get him down on the ground and wrestle him. And there was that other fight that I talked about, that one dude got hit more than 200 times. Like there was no wrestling involved in that. They were just both basically boxing, and there were a couple of kicks involved, but not many. And then there were several others that were, somewhere in between those two kind of extremes, where there was one dude earlier in the night that just like his strategy was just to lay on his back and to try to get the other dude down. And then he was just like kicking from his back. That was his strategy. Crazy.
That's bizarre. I guess, the sporting aspect of just beating somebody to a bloody pulp, it's just not.
Ooh,
Did you ever get into boxing?
brutal.
No.
Were you never a boxing fan?
Mm-mm. I understand, there's a finesse to it, and skill, and obviously you're strong and whatever, but you willingly go to get your butt kicked.
Yeah,
it's just weird to me.
that is crazy for sure.
Ezra?
Plenty of SEC influence last night in the Major League Baseball draft. A bit surprising that it was Vandy pitcher Kumar Rocker dropping to number 10 overall. His teammate Jack Leiter goes number 2 overall in the Major League Baseball draft. Rounds 2 through 10, I think, today, and then it'll be 11 through 20. Day number 3 things up tomorrow. From the Gamecock perspective, it was one signee for Carolina, who ended up going late last night. So you had the first round, and then you have a few compensatory and they call them sandwich round picks. So I think there are a few more after that, and that's where Cooper Kenny was taken number 34 overall by the Tampa Bay Rays. He's an infielder from Tennessee and wasn't projected to go that high, I think, in a lot of projections in this thing, but was the highest rated signee that the Gamecocks had, and hoping to get him to help solidify the infield. Doesn't look like that's going to happen now that the Rays took him number 34 overall. That signing bonus slot value, which they kind of have it automatically penciled in that way, and teams can go a little bit higher or a little bit lower. But this is kind of the recommended slot value, $2.15 million is what Cooper Kenny is likely to get from the Tampa Bay Rays. And that would define life-changing money, I think, is how Ray Tanner always used to put it in these conversations that he would have. I saw former Gamecock first-round pick and All-American in college, helping Ray Tanner and company get to their first College World Series back in 2002. Ray Tanner's first College World Series, not the Gamecocks, but Drew Meyer was on social media yesterday talking about some draft stories as well. I think he set his number at maybe 7 figures or somewhere in there, and then a Pirate scout ended up calling him when they were like they had the 50th pick and said, "We got $500,000. That's as high as we can go. Any interest?" And I think he politely declined and moved on to have an All-American career and got the Gamecocks to the College World Series and ended up signing for much more than that after his junior year. That's how his Major League Baseball draft experience went, along with turning Tommy Lasorda down basically from the Dodgers out of high school and ended up coming to Carolina instead. But something to keep an eye on, Mississippi State's Will Bednar, also taken relatively high last night, I think number 14 overall. Hoagland from Ole Miss, another SEC arm taken in the Major League Baseball draft last night. It rolls on today, and so do we. Hour number 2 coming up here on the early game.
WKTFM, Columbia.
Jim, Josh just emailed us sleep number. You want to cut that in the 8 o'clock break?
I'm not sure we have time.
Yeah, like 7:55.
Yeah.
That'd be fine.
Well, thanks for reminding me. I need to go make some preparations. Got early morning flag football camp for both my dudes. I need to move the van out of the garage, so I'll be right back on the sucker.
Oh,
Oh,
all
all
right.
right.
Okay. Flag football camps.
Sounds fun. Nab it.
We might have to get into young camp experiences. What everybody remembers was a good young camp, like when you were real little.
Oh yeah.
Not your high school camps, but your.
I don't remember doing a lot of littler ones.
Did you get back? When did you get back? Saturday?
Yeah, Saturday night, about 10:15.
Gotcha. Everything all right?
Yeah.
Relatively all right. Oh, if we're hitting the portion of the summer where I'm going to need a few days off here. I just pulled up my calendar to try and get a good feel for a couple days off.
Probably a good idea to do that.
Yeah.
Try doing like planned vacations and stuff. I highly encourage that more than, rushing up for things.
Yeah. I got a feeling it's going to be one more year with with minimal vacation, but next year I've already got that cruise, and we may do Disney next
That'd
summer.
be fun.
So I've already told the kids next summer might be the summer of vacation.
There you go.
There was a reason I was thinking I could not take the 28th, 29th, and 30th off. And now I don't know what it was. The end of that week.
Yeah, that's going to be. It's going to get busy. The 28th, my mother-in-law and a cousin of hers come in, and then that whole nenext week, I've got people coming in and out because my daughter graduates.
Oh,
give her
boy.
BSN. So it's going to be about 10 or 11 days of. A lot of in and out.
A lot in and out. Oh boy.
So we'll just send the overflow people down to the Gunner house.
Oh yeah, bring them on down. Oh, Patrick Peterson jumped in the lake in his full.
Really? Why was that?
He made a putt. I don't know why he jumped. I just happened to turn around and see, and then people because he went through the ropes and jumped in the lake, so all the fans that are there jumped in with him.
I'm a
Yeah.
dedicated fan, but I don't think I'd do that.
Yeah, I don't know anything about Lake Tahoe. Is it cold water? Is it just perfectly fine? I have no clue. The lake here, I tell you what, the water here this weekend felt incredible. That storm
Really?
that came through last week,
Uh-huh.
with all that rain, I'm guessing it cooled the water down just a tad because it wasn't extremely warm, and it felt it was hot out there, and you jump in the water and it was perfect. I enhanced my tan pretty significantly.
Thank you for not sharing.
Yeah.
Chris, right now we're being blinded by the light with the.
Well, you weren't here last week. Tim liked this view. He said it was better with not being able to see me and look into the background of the lake.
Well, I concur, but
yeah.
when the
Fine,
sun
just
is kind of peeking out and you're not
right there.
blinded.
Take that. Now I can just But no, the undercover or anonymous mafia informant that I am right now. Apparently, Tim liked this better. I said I could do it. It gets warm though.
I can see that. That big, ball of fire behind you.
Yeah, it gets warm right here.
But you're willing to sweat one for the team.
Oh, I mean, I don't think this curtain helps at all. If I pull it back behind me, I think it just it's a little sheer curtain. Yeah, it does little to no good. Yeah, you can still see right through that.
Yeah, not much.
Oh man.
Only in a bad spot for a little bit.
Yeah, it'll move. It'll move. Need to look at the weather report for today.
Could see a chance. Could see a storm. Storm. Sounds like you. Storm. Storm and shower. You just blend it together.
I'm not seeing a very high percentage of a storm.
No, about 30% at best.
Yeah, we're at that point of the summer where there's not enough sports to keep me fully engaged. So it's definitely vacation time.
No, I get it. Say what, I know you have not, but if you've not watched this SRX series, the race series, that it's a 6-week thing. We're actually going to Nashville this weekend to see the finale.
Oh, really?
And Chase Elliott and his dad are both going to be in this one. Elio Castroneves has been it the whole time. And
Wait. When you say we're going to Nashville, are you referring to the show or you?
No, like they're going to race, well, just outside of Nashville, just south of Nashville.
Okay, so you said we're going to Nashville. You don't mean you and the family are going. I was going to say that's a lot of travel for you.
No, I mean, we are legit like driving there to, I think it's Lebanon, Tennessee is where the racetrack is for this SRX series.
So you're going to go watch it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm with you.
Yeah. I'm super excited. I think it's going to be fun. It'll be the finale of this series. This has been a good series. I really hope they expand the schedule for next year.
When you making the trip?
It's this weekend.
Ooh.
Because I want to be in a car again. Yeah.
Right. Strong road warrior.
But yeah, just go Friday afternoon, and the race is Saturday. It'll be fun.
Bill, you done that drive to Nashville? I know you have, right?
Yeah, I've done it several times.
Not terrible.
Once was enough for me.
Done it several times. The both ways through it. The best way now to me is through Atlanta and up through Chattanooga in that way. Because man, you get to Knoxville and you're like, oh, I think I'm almost there, and then you pass a little sign that's like 236 more miles. And you're like, whoa.
Yeah, 40 just seems endless.
Yeah, it's I think I've come back that way once in the last 10 years, but every other time's been Atlanta through Chattanooga.
We're in the open. Guys are up.
Was that a good soccer match yesterday? How did it go down? I know it was close and it ended in penalty kicks, and in most sports, that's always a great thing, right? I saw Patrick put it up on social media yesterday that I better be watching the penalty kick game. So I'm thinking it was thought of in the soccer world as a good way to end that Euro Cup and all the history involved with England being in the final and going for the first time in 60 years, I think it was. And it was dramatic in penalty kicks and how they had the lead, and then they didn't make their last three and clearly didn't come away with a victory. And as you could imagine, things turned ugly there, as anybody could have predicted there with the English soccer fans. And Italy takes home the Euro. I don't know, Bill. Do you know? You didn't catch much of it at all, and you got into more of the soccer game the night before.
Probably, yeah. With Argentina and Brazil and Messi and Neymar, and we talked about the soccer flopping last week. The flopping didn't necessarily bother me. What did bother me, and that you probably didn't catch, or if anybody watched it, was basically the scene that Neymar. So Messi wins, Argentina wins, and Messi did
1-0, right? 1-0.
Yeah, well, very very good terminology there.
a typical 3 goals in 2 games. The combined score. It was 1-1 tie that pushed the penalty kicks for Italy.
Yeah. So, but anyway, Messi doesn't score, but they end up winning. And so for Messi, it meant everything because he finally did something for Argentina, and everybody was very happy. So then you got Neymar on the other side, who rolls around on the ground after the game for, I don't know, 15 minutes or so crying because his team didn't win. Like Messi's trying to celebrate. Like here's this great moment for him. He's down there celebrating with a few Argentina fans that are in the stadium, and they're celebrating with their teammates and their coaches. And there's Neymar just rolling around, making a scene for himself, making sure everybody sees him. Then after, what's the appropriate amount of time where the opposition goes and congratulates the winner and gets off the field? What do you think? 5 minutes, 10 minutes? You give them a chance to celebrate?
Yeah, it's a great question, but it also depends on the scene, right? Because a lot of times the celebration happens immediately for the team that won, and then they go over to say good game or, congratulations or condolences to the team that lost. So a lot of times it depends on that.
Yeah, well, Neymar stayed out there for a solid 30 minutes, just making sure everybody saw him, talk, make sure he cried a little bit. Then he laughed with the other guys, and that was a little annoying. That was kind of bothersome. That was pretty, in my opinion, egotistical of him.
So not gracious in defeat, but it went from gracious in defeat to it's all about me and like you guys got to see me and the cameras have to see me.
Yeah, that was basically it. Like, well, my team didn't win, so they can only focus on Messi. So let me find ways to make sure that I am very upset and disappointed but I also am happy for Argentina. And so it was a full run of emotions from him, which he could have easily done in the locker room, but then no camera would have caught it. And it was a very over the top dramatic production, I thought. So, but I did watch it. And it was a good game. And to your question on Italy, England, not that I caught that, but yeah, I would think as long as you're not an England fan, it was probably a pretty good game. Back and forth. Italy's 1-1 is kind of pretty intense. It comes down to penalty kicks. So I would go with probably a good game unless you were pulling for England.
But my point was whether it was a well played soccer. They're just like in any sport. We talk about it always on Mondays. I feel like from the Gamecock football perspective, especially like either that was a good football game or it wasn't. And just because it's close doesn't necessarily mean it's a good game. And just because there's a bunch of scoring or something doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad game or a well-played game, I guess is where I'm going at. It's a great question here. And I'm a bit distracted now with the soccer conversation because Travis brings up an excellent point. Nigeria is also probably still celebrating their win. How in the world does Nigeria beat Team USA in basketball, Bill? 90-87. This happened in Vegas. I think it's just an exhibition game, right? And then I was looking, well, obviously there must have just been some fill-in guys for Team USA. And now I'm looking at the box score. Kevin Durant, Jason Tatum, Bam Adebayo, Bradley Beal, Damian Lillard, Draymond Green, Kevin Love. And these are all the guys that were part of this team. And Nigeria beats Team USA in basketball now? You're talking about feeling old about a prospect for the class of 2023 and DeJuan Wagner Jr. being the number one guy in the country. And now we've gotten to the point where we've gone from the dream team in my lifetime back in the day where absolutely no chance of anybody beating Team USA because now the NBA players could play in it to now NBA players getting beat by Team Nigeria. What's going on?
Let's be perfectly clear. This should never happen because of what you just mentioned. But a couple things happened in this particular game that should be pointed out. One, and I'm trying to confirm this. I know that the leading scorer for Nigeria is I think a starter or is a backup. I really was not familiar with him, but he plays for the Miami Heat of all teams, which just goes to show how much my fandom is there. But he is and I'm trying to get his name real quick for you. But he had a really good game. Also, do you know who the head coach for Nigeria is? Yeah, any clue?
No.
He's won an NBA championship, I think. No, actually, no, he didn't. He got fired. He got fired before they won.
Well, give us an organization then, and we'll play that.
Cleveland. He is associated with the Cleveland Cavaliers and LeBron James.
Ty Lue?
No, Mike Brown.
Go ahead. Okay, Mike Brown.
Mike Brown, the former, and of course he is. Nigeria has 6 NBA players on their team. Now, again, this should never happen, but the bottom line is because the American team has got the best NBA players. Nigeria actually has 6 NBA players on it. I was looking for all 6 names. They had 12 NBA players in their 49-man training camp. And 7 of them were in uniform on Saturday. So, and it was Gabriel Vincent, basically, who had 21 points. He's a reserve guard for the Miami Heat. So that's one reason. It's not like these are just players they brought over from that country. This is guys who've actually played a little bit of international basketball, and I agree, you shouldn't win. The other reason here, and I have to go back and look at the stat line, I know they hit 23s because I did the same thing when I saw this on Saturday morning and just kind of glanced at it. But Nigeria hit 23s, and we, the Americans, did not shoot the ball very well at all. So there's your breakdown of how that happens. However, it should be noted, I think America beat Nigeria almost 10 years ago by 83 points, and then had recently beaten them 101-44, I believe.
Unbelievable. Wow. That's where we sit this morning, coming off of one of the most international headlined weekends of sports that I can remember, kind of led by the European Championship there in soccer, and then the Copa Championship, I guess, South America as well, and Wimbledon going down. I watched more of the women's final actually than the men. I had never even heard of Ash Barty, the number 1 seed on the women's side of things. You know, they didn't even have Wimbledon last year, and she has been the number 1 player in the world for about a year. Never even heard of her until this weekend, where she gets her first Wimbledon title, and I guess 10 years after she won the junior title there, and she had quit the sport for like 2.5 years or something. I think ended up playing cricket. An interesting story for sure. And then Novak Djokovic tying Rafael Nadal and Roger Federer for 20 Grand Slam titles. Pretty interesting conversation on the men's side of things, now greatest of all time. And I know you watched some of that. I watched the first set where I was pulling for the Italian guy who I'd never heard of going into the day yesterday. And Novak, not surprised that Djokovic obviously came back and won the next 3 sets after dropping the first one. Ended up only dropping his first set, I think, of the entire tournament, and the first set of the final, and that was it. He rolled from there. From our perspective, much more interesting to discuss the welcome home tweet Shane Beamer put out yesterday, another recruit coming to Gamecock football, and update you on the national recruiting rankings when we come back. Also, the implications of the first round of the Major League Baseball draft. There is a direct implication for Gamecock baseball and plenty of SEC influence from last night. Day 2 of the draft starts this afternoon with rounds 2 through 10 going down, and more influence certainly will come from the Carolina and SEC perspective for sure. Just getting rolling here in hour number 2. Love for you to be a part of the program. 803-404-6100 is the number. You can call or text. It's the early game. It's 107.5 The Game.
We'll go see if the trash is clean. We got one more bag.
We have this morning, we'll talk about a little bit more coming back. And apparently it's going to be a defensive guy, but awfully rumor-oriented at this point. I think Bill's saying he's hearing from Hale McGranahan of the Big Spur that the video is in the works. That's why you're not hearing the name attached. Anthony, my question is, you watch a movie 3 times, obviously you think it's pretty good. I need to hear why it was worth watching 3 times this weekend, sir.
Well, they sure promoted the Tara. You just saw a movie after trailer after trailer.
I like where Sonny and the wife went there. Nice work.
Exactly.
A classic. Which I still don't think Bill has even seen, by the way.
Probably not. The sheltered life he leads.
The ADD life of not being able to sit and watch a movie.
Right. Craig, how do we know a defensive player?
That's just the word.
Oh, I haven't seen that. I have not seen that.
At least some social media response, because that a lot of people speculate, people hoping that it was dealt, and then I think some that are more plugged in came back and said, no, it's going to be a defensive guy who's supposed to be one of the more highly touted guys, allegedly.
I think that's either that Abdul Barker kid who actually will be a pickup. Or I do think it's Keyshawn Nixon. Yeah, we'll see.
Surely it's not Keyshawn Nixon, is it?
I'm sorry, Keenan Nelson. Keyshawn Nixon would probably be getting a guy back from the pros to come back and play. Is probably a good thing, but not likely.
And still, Gamecock fans would find a reason to not like it. It's out at corner.
Yeah.
With the ball and chain for date night. Hilarious.
So now we can screenshot that and have blackmail material if we ever need that for Anthony.
Yeah. So you're a Marvel guy, huh? Not a Marvel guy. My kids have gotten into it at the exact level that I would like to. Like, the young one is dressed up as Captain America, and I think they got a couple of books, little books, but that's about it.
Mm-hmm.
They're still too young to let them watch those movies. I think at 8 and 6, at least for my.
They still have a fair amount of violence.
Boy, Travis. I'm guessing you get that for a 48-hour window there, RL. That's how most of those rentals work, right?
That was a pretty good clip of the day. I got involved in that. The Deebo Samuel running it back against North Carolina State clip. By the way, we're coming back, but did you see the story on Les Miles in Kansas that came out?
Yeah.
Cool.
just it feels a lot like that. What the transfer from Texas A&M to Arizona, who was on the old A&M's staff or Jimbo Fisher staff, or getting on him. A little bit of that to it.
Guys are up.
Cooper Kenny is the Gamecock signee's name, drafted last night in the Major League Baseball draft, number 34 overall. $2.15 million is about the slot value for that pick. So doesn't look like Cooper Kenny, an infielder from the state of Tennessee, about 500 in high school with 10 home runs and 50 RBI. Doesn't appear that he will be coming to Carolina to play college baseball at all. Looks like professional baseball will be his path, minor league baseball out of high school. And there were a lot of minor league prospects. A lot of high school prospects taken pretty high in last night's first round. It seemed like maybe more so than usual, and a bit surprising knowing that there was a kind of a logjam in college baseball this year after COVID issues ended the 2020 season early, and it's slimmed down, massively cut down last year's draft down to 5 rounds, and back this year now up to 20 rounds, and will conclude tomorrow. There are 2 through 10 today, last night's first round. But again, the South Carolina implication, University of South Carolina implication, Cooper Kenny taken number 34 overall by the Tampa Bay Rays and set to sign for a slot value of 2.15. You would imagine that's a tough thing to turn down when you're a high school baseball player, and you have that future in front of you. As a Louisville catcher taken number 1 overall, Jack Leiter, Vandy pitcher taken number 2. Surprisingly, Kumar Rocker dropped to number 10 overall and is in the New York Mets organization. Will Bednar, the Mississippi State star, helped them win the College World Series, taking number 14 overall. A handful of picks later was Ole Miss pitcher Hoagland, who ended up getting hurt not long after. I think it might have been the start or maybe 2 starts after he went against the Gamecocks this year, ended up having Tommy John surgery, but that, a lot like Clark Schmidt several years ago, didn't affect his draft status too much. And he gets a first-round draft pick and is going to make a bunch of money playing baseball moving forward. It will be interesting to see the names connected today, and if there are any Gamecock implications, any Gamecock players taken in rounds 2 through 10 today. I would imagine we'd see 1 or 2, but a relatively quiet year, I think, from the Gamecock Major League Baseball draft perspective, Bill, as opposed to some we've seen in years past. And Mark Kingston and company, I think they know what's ahead of them after bowing out in the regionals this year, especially doing that at home, and kind of where Gamecock fans are now as you get a bit of a break in between the school year ending with the College World Series a couple of weeks ago, and now really the unofficial start of the next school sports season anyway, with a week from today, SEC Media Days kicking off for Shane Beamer and company, who put out a tweet yesterday. And I asked you if you were surprised at all about another Gamecock football commit during this time specifically, because it's a dead period for recruiting for, what, about 10 more days, I believe it is. 2 more weeks, actually. I think maybe today it opens back up, and there'll be some on-campus events for prospects and commits with the cookouts and all that kind of stuff, kind of reorganizing their recruiting effort or getting guys back on campus and reevaluating, maybe is the best way to put it. But you said you weren't overly surprised with yesterday's news that there'll be, I guess, a 16th commitment in this year's class of 2022, where the Gamecocks continue to look pretty good in the national rankings, up to number 14 in the Rivals rankings, up to number 15, I believe it is, in the 24/7 Sports composite. Actually, number 16, Bill, as I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect, or excuse me, I should say, I would expect maybe another commitment or 2 to go along with this one by the end of the month. You get into the month of July, you get kids who decide after they've made some visits, and especially now with the way the recruiting calendar is, being able to take official visits in June, you get kids who get to go back home, kind of settle in, take some time to think about what they saw, maybe discuss some things with, again, their parents or their mentor or their high school coach or whomever. And some of those people suggest, hey, look, we can't keep traveling all over the country here. If you feel comfortable, let's go ahead and make a decision, get you locked in with that school, and then worry about, your senior season. Enjoy your senior season, enjoy your senior year of high school, and move forward with that. That doesn't mean, because you pointed out plenty of times, a commitment doesn't mean you're necessarily going to land that player, but a player can go ahead and maybe end the process. And if they still want to look around, they can look around, but they also have the ability to go ahead and secure the spot with the team that they want to go to, with the coaching staff, with the school, so forth and so on. So, yeah, I think you'll see a few more commitments here. I think 1 or 2 by the end of by July 31st. That wouldn't be a shock. And then you head into, again, the start of the season. And then maybe things die down for a little bit until December, when recruiting really picks back up again.
Me hearing that, though, it sounds like a typical outlook for college football and recruiting, Bill. And because this year is unlike any other, first of all, with the extended dead period because of COVID, and now because of name, image, likeness stuff still evolving before our eyes. RJ Roderick, what I saw the latest from Gamecock football perspective, signing with a kind of a branch of the Lee Steinberg agency, I think, to help him navigate the NIL waters. He put that news out on social media, I believe it was yesterday. You don't think that's going to have an immediate impact on this class of 2022 from the college football recruiting standpoint?
I don't know. That's a good question, just because it is still new, and because I think there's one of 2 ways that a high school recruit is looking at it. They either see what's happening here with college players, and they're going, oh, I can't wait. I'm going to get in there, and I'm going to follow this, and I'm going to make millions off a name, image, likeness. Or you've got people saying, hey, watch how this kind of plays out. Watch what schools handle it the best. And obviously Miami, being public about the Bring Back the U Corporation that the gym owner started, and paying players $500, being very public about it, certainly gets the attention. What other schools come forward and try to do something like that? I mean, to me, there's a little bit more there that either the players can sit back and watch before they make a commitment, or on the flip side of that, you got players who just say, hey, I see exactly what's going on now. I'm jumping in, both feet in the boat with the school who I think is going to help promote my name, image, likeness the best. And I think I've got a chance to go there and make a little bit of money.
Well, I've seen it on social media. A popular response to this name, image, likeness stuff is simply, hey, guys out there that are in this boat, you got to understand that your ultimate money-making opportunity is just to be the best you could possibly be at your sport. And everything else can be a distraction. Make sure you understand that is still what you need to do to put yourself in the best position. So the old school mentality in my brain kicks in and wants to be all in there. But on the other side, in reality, you need to be smart about it as well. And I would think I would probably counsel someone right now, just being completely on the outside looking in, to be extra patient during this process right now, if possible. Now, it's easy for me to say, and I know programs prefer to go ahead and lock guys up and say, hey, we only have a certain amount of spots, and we want to make a commitment to you, but we need a commitment from you at the same time. So that maybe that pressure is there as well, that you don't see publicly or hear about publicly. And I'm not sure how that factors in, but it's an interesting spot these prospects are in as we sit here right now. And on the recruiting side, as well as the name, image, and likeness thing, there are a lot of extra factors this year for sure going into the class of 2022 that we'll certainly keep you up to date on and continue to discuss. We're going to kick off the second half of the program when we come back here, 803-404-6100. If you would like to join the show, you can call or text. It's the early game on 107.5.
Basketball coach wants their you're listening.
Hey, right now, it looks like my little guys are headed off to flag football camp, or the 2 older ones, the 1-year-old. We're not sending him to flag football camp quite yet, but he continues to dominate us when it comes to meal times and around the house, running all over the place. Why I am more familiar with my floors these days than typical. I recommend you get Zero Res out to your house. Like, they've come out to my house a couple of times, done a great job cleaning my carpets. They cleaned the area rug for me, freshened up the tiles in both the kitchen and bathroom, and done a great job. Zero Res Carpet and Air Duct Cleaning does it different than anybody else. They have a patented powered water system. No harsh chemicals involved in the process, and that's especially important to me and my family with the little guy always picking stuff up on our floors and putting it in his mouth and the whole deal. But we had nothing to worry about him being back on the floors or the 8 and 6-year-old rolling around, wrestling all like they always are on the floors after they were clean because of that no harsh chemicals involved. Also, our carpets have stayed cleaner longer. Yours can as well because there's no leftover soapy residue involved in the Zero Res carpet cleaning process. And that's why the carpets stay cleaner longer, even with all the let's say, action they're getting these days at my house. Take advantage of Zero Res's great deal right now as well. 3 rooms of carpet cleaned, only $119 plus a free hallway when you mention me, Tim Hill. That's Zero Res. Book today. ZeroResColumbia.com online. Give them a call at 803-262-4020. Zero Res. Spell it backwards or forwards. It's the right way to clean.
Traffic Center, Shepherd's Glass, a true reflection of quality.
Sun
Shepherd's
is
Glass.
very bright this morning.
Right there on
What's that?
I-20
Said the
westbound.
sun is super bright this morning.
2 left lanes currently
Looks good
blocked
over your
due to
shoulder.
an earlier accident.
Good. It looks
And we have a
good. I
report
can
of a
barely
tie
see
up
the computer screen.
I-77 southbound and
Oh,
Decker
yeah.
Boulevard.
Yeah, don't need that though.
And weather-wise, we are looking.
Try to say
we just
goodbye real
have
quick
one
to
more
the
pop back in
eight.
here. I-26
All right, go say goodbye
eastbound,
to the kids.
just east of Old Sandy Run Road. So again, I-26 eastbound. There at exit 125, a report of an accident. Now getting to the
Can't
weather,
see
might
nothing
see a
on the
couple storms
screen.
popping up today. 92 for the high, 91
Lovely.
tomorrow, 92
Like having to
on
duck to my
Wednesday.
right.
Some humidity in there as well. But right now, 74, 107.5 the game.
Gamecock football. 54 days to kick off. Why buy just any old used car when you can have the advantages of the Love Chevy certified
I assume. I don't know. Oh, yeah.
Chevrolet. I-26 in Harbison between Lowe's.
I wonder how many people are like on vacation at this point in the year. Hey, what is the most popular week to take a vacation? Ooh.
All right.
Got
We'll
it
be-
over there?
Interested to see how the current mindset of we're going to dominate will change after day one.
After day one. So the Hill Boys are pretty much ready to take on the world, at least heading there.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Might shift.
It's all right. Nothing wrong with that.
Knowing that they have to overcome a lot of genetic deficiencies.
Well, they have a chance with their mom, right?
Right. Hopefully that will take over today.
Mm-hmm.
Now, will you, after the show, will you go out and watch them a little bit, hang out, or do you just kind of let them?
I will be doing what I am asked/told.
Oh, okay. All right.
With the probably depend on the nap cooperation of the little dude.
Yeah.
But yeah, if I have the chance to, I'll get out there a little bit.
$110 for a family of 5 to go to the zoo. Oh boy.
That's gone up.
Yeah, that's what Charter says. Craziness.
Now, just to go, or was that all inclusive? Because if that's all inclusive, in my mind, that's about right.
Mm-hmm.
About
That-
was that
that includes
$22 a
food.
person?
Knowing that I spent $90 on concessions only at the last Gamecock baseball game.
Oh,
There you go.
On concessions only.
Yeah.
All righty then.
Yeah, I would like to think 110 for going to the zoo should include everything.
I had a boy Richard out in Vegas weighing in this morning at 434.
Wow.
Is impressive, sir.
Oh, you're going to Team USA versus Australia today. Hopefully, you see a victory.
Yeah, just walking in for that, I'm That would grizzle me. But I mean, I guess that is what, $22.
Yeah, if you think about it, that's, I mean, well, it depends. It depends. He said a family of 5. Depends on how old the kids are.
Right.
Because I think there's a certain age, where the price jumps on them a little bit,
Yeah, clearly Travis has hit that age. If he hasn't, then whoa.
But that's one I definitely, and I would love to see what that cutoff is, because I certainly don't want to pay for a 2-year-old, but I have to take the 2-year-old because I have the 5 and 7 or whatever the case may be.
Right.
Well, they do. They push it to where they're pushing you to sign up for the yearly membership.
Correct.
They're almost getting to the point where they make it where it's ridiculous to go just for 1 or 2 times a year, where they want you to just get the family membership so you can kind of go whenever.
Yep. All right, we're back in.
Well,
All right, you're up.
One of the main reasons Shane Beamer is now the South Carolina head football coach is his ability to communicate both with his new bosses, his new fan base, or his old new fan base, I should say, having coached with Steve Spurrier as an assistant back in the day and kind of rejoin the Gamecock football family in that way, but also to convey enthusiasm, excitement, energy to the fan base and clearly prospective players and current players. So, Bill, we've heard a lot from Shane Beamer since he's been hired, especially about creating the culture and the energy, enthusiasm of the new coaching staff and what they have to prove and the whole deal. But we haven't really heard from him. I don't think he's spoken publicly at length anyway, since name, image, and likeness became a thing. What do you think his attitude might be, and the attitude overall a week from today when we get to start hearing from college football head coaches, especially in the SEC, because we all understand the SEC from a football perspective is on a different level than really any other college sport. It is a separate entity as far as making money, the name brand recognition that comes with being a big-time football player at a big-time SEC football school. I don't know how these guys are going to address this publicly come a week from today. And let's just start with maybe Shane Beamer's specific outlook on this, and then we can talk about maybe, I'm guessing, for instance, he'll have a much different outlook than Nick Saban will. I'm guessing Lane Kiffin's outlook on it will be polar opposite than Nick Saban's, just like he is on mostly everything from a PR standpoint anyway. Bill, what do you think?
Well, I'm going to assume, I think we kind of hit on this a little bit on Friday or Thursday. We brought it up. Most coaches, you would assume, are basically going to be very pro name, image, likeness. I mean, you've already seen, Dabo Swinney, who said he would quit a few years ago. He would quit if college players were ever allowed to get paid. Now he's already backtracked and basically said, "Oh no, this is great. I love it for players." And I saw the article in the state newspaper the other day where his 2 sons are profiting off of name, image, likeness. So, with all that being said, I think you're gonna hear over the next few weeks a lot of coaches, whether they believe it or not, talk about how great this is for the players and how they've got to help them a little bit in terms of making sure that they navigate this the right way, and how it is a new era for college football. And we'll see if some of the harder questions get asked about how involved head coaches will be, about how much they'll have to monitor the situation, if locker rooms will change. But again, I think when everything comes down to what you hear from the coaches, it's all going to be very positive, right? You can't, I mean, Nick Saban might be the one guy who goes out there and says, "Look, you come to Alabama to prepare against other NFL players and prepare for your profession or your NFL career," right? That's what we do here at Alabama. We train you to get ready for the next level, playing the college games. It's kind of like the John Calipari speech I heard to Stanley Johnson's father years ago. It was a unique. Not many people can tell a recruit, "Hey, you come here not because of games, not because of championships, but you come here because you want to practice against the best day in, day out, so that when you go to the NFL, you're fully prepared." That's the kind of players we have here to get you ready for the NFL. And not everybody can sell it. So maybe Nick Saban's the one who goes like, "Look, I always thought it was about going to college and being a student, you could see that in his voice, right? The kind of he does that little head nod thing where he'll kind of go, I thought this is what college was about, but we'll adjust and we'll adapt, and we got people who are prepared to handle that. I think Nick Saban will be very monotone about it and just be, I don't know if I agree with it or not, but it's where we're at.
See, I think he could go the other way. He could come out and say that he is not for it, and that he is concerned about the distraction, the rat poison it's going to be for his players and the whole thing. But you're right. And again, I say SEC football is on a different level than other sports from a money-making perspective. Well, let's be very clear. Alabama's on the highest of that level, right? And then there's kind of everybody else, but there's certainly tiers. And all programs aren't close to where Alabama is. So he can, you're right, though. He can go at it differently than other coaches, because all coaches use SEC Media Days as an opportunity to sell their program and to sell recruits on coming to their program, recruits' families, the whole deal. So now I'm really interested, as we're a week away from this thing, and we've seen just so much happen just last week, or however long, what were 10 days into this thing, something like that, not quite 2 weeks. Everything that we've seen come out just from a public standpoint on that Miami situation about the Bring Back the U corporation that you brought up, and players being offered $500 a month from that standpoint, some individual deals that we've seen, and then some non-traditional revenue generating sports, and how those specific athletes have been able to cash in on social media accounts mostly. How now football coaches who have always preached team, I think probably more than anyone, football being the ultimate team game, and everybody's got to do their job, and especially Nick Saban and his organization and how you approach things, and now balancing that with the opportunity to make money as an individual, I think is a really tricky balance, because like you said, though, this is where football coaches have been disingenuous in the past, talking about guys sitting out bowl games, for instance, knowing that it became part of the marketplace. And if you came out strongly against guys doing that, then it would hurt you on the recruiting trail. Guys leaving early for the NFL, it was that kind of 10 years prior to this bowl game trend. And now I feel like this is the latest challenge that college football coaches have to handle from a PR standpoint, because it all comes down to recruiting. In college football, we know you got to have the players to compete at the highest level, and your message has to resonate with those players. And in this standpoint, it appears to have to be, hey, that we're for you coming to our place and making money off the current situation, which is pretty much wide open. And like we heard from Frank Martin, he described it as buck wild, I think, and kind of wheels off at this point.
No, I mean, that in and of itself, again, that's why coaches, I can see coaches will say, look, we got departments that handle this. My job is to coach the team. I think there will be some interesting answers about balancing as a head coach the name, image, likeness, and how much a college coach, a head coach gets involved in that, and how much he, allows, like South Carolina, I forget the name of the company that they signed with, or who in the athletic department is necessarily helping players, maybe a person that a player can go to across the board, whether it's gymnastics, whether it's swimming, golf. Again, golf is the one you would think that maybe you stand to benefit the most from this, because you can now use a sponsorship exemption, or somebody, or maybe a sponsor can pay for you to go play in a professional tournament if you can qualify. But how much a head coach is involved in name, image, likeness, or how much they're turning over to the staff, to the athletic department. And that's maybe the questions you'll get more of next week.
But ultimately, the head coach will be responsible. We talked in the video stream real quickly about the Les Miles in Kansas situation that's earning headlines. That was really the only news of note nationally, I think, over the weekend from a college football perspective, that a former Kansas player is saying that the school, Les Miles, he names, and the former athletic director now, and Jeff Long, basically offering him a deal to stay quiet on some harassment issues that he was complaining about and saying that they would continue to keep him on scholarship, I think was the deal, and pay the stipend as long as he was taking online Kansas classes from his home in a different state far away. And it was an ugly situation there. Now he and his family are thinking about suing the school and the whole deal there. But my point of bringing this up is that Les Miles is responsible for that. These head coaches will be responsible for the way that their organization, the way that their university, their athletics department handles this name, image, and likeness thing. And I'm with you. They're not going to be the experts, certainly, and they're not going to be the guys holding hands through these individual deals. That is certainly going to be shipped out. And we've seen the University of South Carolina, for instance, has a consulting firm that they're kind of deferring to or bringing in to help with this as well. But it is part of the equation these days. And Travis brings up an interesting point, says, at what point do we see where this becomes a distraction? I think that might be a large concern right now for college football coaches. I can see some of them saying, yep, we've been advising our guys, go ahead and get your deals in place. Now's the time to do that. But once camp starts, once the season starts, we don't want that to be a part of their daily lives or certainly take away from the team. We're going to have it structured to where, all right, this is the time where you focus on that and you make sure that you take care of that to the most that you can, right? Take advantage of it, earn your money, get what you can get, and then make sure that you're keeping that away from the rest of the team, because it's the team that's the most important. That sounds like some coach speak that we would hear in front of the podium to me, Bill.
You're going to have, again, we got the media days coming up for everybody. So you're going to get to hear everybody's opinion on this. And obviously it'll be topic probably number one. You almost, unless you're a new coach, you'd almost guess that it's going to be the first question asked to just about every coach as they step to any podium here for any conference over the next 10 days. But it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out with what you hear. Because like you pointed out, or like I said last week, let's go with this. D'Eriq King looks like, at least on the surface publicly, to be the player who was the most ready and has profited the most off of name, image, likeness right off the bat. He's done one of those NFTs. He's got a business, another business going. I think he signed something like $20,000. Like D'Eriq King, the quarterback at Miami, who plays Alabama in the opener, if he goes out and has a bad game, are people then going to criticize him and say, oh, too much time focusing on your name, image, likeness? You should have been focusing on the playbook and throwing with your wide receivers and preparing for that Alabama defense. Let's not worry about the fact that Alabama's pretty good at the whole thing of football. They're going to blame him and say he should have done more. How do coaches combat that and do exactly what you just said? All right, guys, get your money, do it during the summer or, do it in the spring. But when August rolls around, I need you focused on what we're trying to do so we can accomplish what we want, the goals we've set forth for the season. That's going to be the interesting part to me, and that's where the coaches come in and I think become more a part of the name, image, likeness debate.
To me, to answer Travis's question, at what point do we see where it begins to be a distraction for athletes? I think guys who allowed other issues to distract them to begin with will be the ones that have issues managing name, image, and likeness. I don't see it being an overwhelmingly larger problem for others. I think it's those who can handle multiple things will just add this to the list of the other things they're already handling that Travis mentioned, like practice, meetings, studying, social life. And now you have the name, image, and likeness thing. Maybe that's naive, and maybe it depends on the amount that is included and what these deals, what are worked in with these deals. But it seems like, at least from what we've seen so far, representing a brand on social media does not require a large time commitment, as opposed to a few posts a week, a month, whatever it is. So I'm guessing that'll be kind of the bulk of a lot of these name, image, and likeness deals, but I could be wrong. We're still at the very beginning of this thing. We're not at the beginning of the show, nearing the end of hour number 2. We'll see if we can finish strong when we come back. 803-404-6100 is the number if you'd like to call or text here on the early game. It's 107.5 The Game.
spent most of my weekend hanging out by the lake. That was the easy thing for me to do. Maybe a lot of you spent most of your weekend hanging by your personal pool, hanging out with the kids, jumping in the water, doing cannonballs, whatever it is that you like to dive in with. Maybe you grilled out. Maybe you didn't because your pool right now is dirty. It's got leaves in it. It's got pollen left over from the spring. Who knows? Whatever it is, you need to get that fixed ASAP so you can enjoy that personal pool. And I've got just the company. Corley Pool Solutions. You can give them a phone call today, 803-445-8109. Flat rate pricing, including all the chemicals. And that's the important part, is using someone with experience. And Tracy Corley has 20 plus years of experience in the pool business, making sure they know the proper amount of chemicals to put in that pool so you do not mess that thing up. 803-445-8109. Flat rate pricing. Again, all the chemicals included. They offer pool maintenance. You can enjoy your pool and not worry about any surprises that pop up. You can just go out, lounge out. Kids can be hopping in the water. You can be on the grill, and then you can go in and jump and do a cannonball, splash water all over everybody. That's the fun part of having your own pool. Make sure you use it. Corley Pool Solutions. Get them out there and let them take care of your pool. 803-445-8109. Oh, just leaving me out. Tim's all over the place this morning. All right, I think I've finally gotten the computer situated correctly here so that I can see it and I'm not blinding y'all. Oh man.
Bill, what Dallas said, according to Tiger Bob, was he did not want players to be paid a salary by the school. The NIL will not pay all players, only the elite, Tiger Bob says.
Well, there's a reason he's Tiger Bob.
We all know the two female basketball players at Fresno State, the elite of the elite athletes across all college sports.
Exactly.
Did you get out on the boat? Craig's wondering how it's running.
Yeah, we went out last night and putted around, went out by the dam, kind of went by that. So there was a guy last night. On the dam walking. Looks like he was just walking, but I guess just wanted a good view. So he stood up kind of like on the concrete portion that separate, the wall there. Dude, I mean, we're passing it. We just see him. It just looks like he's looking for a good view, just kind of taking everything in, because you're looking from the dam back toward Baum Island. You can see the sun setting. And it was about that time. Man, that dude couldn't have been up there for more than 2 minutes. All of a sudden, 3 police cars or SUVs came flying up. I don't know if they were stationed on the dam somewhere. Maybe he'd been standing there longer than I realized. I don't know, but I guess they thought he was going to jump.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, they had 3 of them there that came whipping in and I guess yelling at him to get down. We don't know. We didn't hang around to watch. We just kept on putting past the towers and everything. And looked like it might rain, so we came on back in and didn't end up raining. Got a little windy.
Mark, that's pretty hilarious. I see we have a new live chatter in here. I know Messi. I know Ronaldo a little bit. Neymar. Mbappe, I'm thinking is how you pronounce it.
I think you said that correctly.
And Lewandowski, no clue. And isn't Ibrahimovic old? I think he's old. If he's playing in the
he's an older, yeah. I think he went back to Europe.
So that would be our 1 to 4 show this afternoon that you should check in on, sir.
if this is a real person.
All right.
We're
Well,
heading
Bob,
back in. And we're only going to have about a minute. You're up.
name, image, likeness. It's a great question on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line from Trey. A coach in the SEC who stands to gain the most from their answer to the NIL question. I wouldn't put it that way, right? Because the answer or what we hear from guys at SEC Media Days next week ultimately means very little. But I would think a guy like Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss, who always seems to be exploiting any kind of gray area or knows when you're at Ole Miss, Bill, that you have to do that kind of thing. I would think it would be someone like him who might come in with a different message than we hear from other coaches across college sports even, and some kind of scheme to where he's figured out how to get his guys or get more recruits, better players into Ole Miss. That sound about right to you?
I don't know if there's a coach, and I know you're using Kiffin, that can benefit. They can hurt themselves, though.
No doubt about it. Hour 3 coming up next.
WPTF over Columbia. Total coverage.
All right, Bill, do you want to cut that real quick?
All right, you want to cut this thing real quick?
Oh, we'll get just a little special time. Me and the live streamers.
Missed that, yeah.
This is not going to make it easy for me to eat the leftover crusts from camp lunch that I found that I just didn't have the heart to throw away this morning. Yeah, those are pretty specific questions. You're right, Mark. Agreed. No doubt, Hope, no doubt. I had the internal struggle of, all right, I know he probably shouldn't eat until later in the day. Try to do a little intermittent fast. Trying to think when the last time I ate was last night. I think it was about 7:30, so that gives me just 12 hours from now. Should wait about 16, but I'm not making it 4 more hours. And if I wait any more time on the crust, they'll be worthless. And that's what I was. Great question, Mark. The criticism is it's the worst way of any sport to get a conclusion because it is not the way the game's played, right? I mean, there's no other sport that ends its games more specifically, I guess, than the penalty kick to soccer. I mean, that's the main problem for soccer that most of us have in America anyway, is that it's not enough point, man. I would even prefer. Oh wow, peach cobbler Pop-Tarts. How about that? Oh, I like it from a drama standpoint and the whole thing, but it just is really weird that the game is played for what they end up playing more than 2 hours yesterday, like it's played, and then they're like, all right, we give up, basically. Here's how we got to finish this thing somehow. Why don't you guys stand real close to the goal and try to make some goals, actually. Try to actually score since you couldn't do it enough during the game. I'm not kind of sad, but it's just weird to me. And to see professional soccer players miss the goal on shootouts is ridiculous to me. And that dude who banged it off the post. I love the guy who just ripped one down the middle. He said, all right, you're guessing one side or the other, right? Boop, right at you. Yeah, especially after he saw the guy right before him miss, I think. Bang went off the post.
Rolling through the month.
Sorry, Chris. Did I say PKs instead of shootout? My fault. Soccer nerds.
Shrek Night of Sleep is truly life.
Yeah, that's actually funny.
Yeah, except it doesn't, Craig. This is what I don't understand too. You're a high-level soccer player. Why don't you just put it in the top corner? It's impossible for a goalie to stop one in the top corner. One of those, there was one guy out of the 10 yesterday that put it in the top corner and said there was no goalie. The announcer said there's no goalie in the world who could have made that save. He's right. You can't. You put it in the upper 90 for you soccer nerds. Nothing you can do about it. But it increases the chances of missing. That's why they didn't do it. They didn't want to choke. Oh, the soccer gods are coming down on me, huh?
Yeah, you're in big trouble.
No, Chris just said I was frozen. Yeah, Travis. Yeah. Bill talked about her as being I think was that the list of Darren Ravel as the person most likely to cash in on the NIL?
Yeah. Yeah. Her and the two Fresno State girls, I think, depend on which list you looked at. They were 1 and 2.
Yeah, similar to Raphael, but you don't have any defense on the free throws. That's the difference, right? And again, soccer goalies can only do so much, but at least there's a dude in front of you. But it would kind of be like a baseball game coming down to like some kind of hitting derby, right? Where you just took away the defense and you just had pitcher versus hitter, and like, hey, if you hit in the outfield, your team wins, or it counts as a point.
That actually would be pretty funny. You get one. That'd actually be a fun little game. You get one pitcher, a catcher, and you get one fielder, and it's overtime.
Right. That's the equivalent of soccer ending in a shootout, in my opinion. I know you guys are bummed that Patrick's not here to yell at me about soccer. He's filling in for Captain Dave this afternoon on Heath Show. Or actually, no, Pearson's doing that today. He's doing it the rest of the week.
I was gonna say, and he's getting
still
back
coming back
to Tampa today.
All right. Agreed, Casey. Agreed. I'm done. Well, when we got visited by a soccer bot,
Right.
merits that kind of in-depth coverage.
We've covered more soccer in the last 5 hours of this show, really just the last 3 than we had in the previous 5 years. That lets you know where we're at in the summer.
I can get you back on the racing talk.
Ha.
On the racing talk. We have a dedicated racing segment. Oh man.
Yeah.
Attaboy, Travis. Thank you for your contributions this morning, sir.
Yeah, football practice. All right. Is that
Real
is it
football.
I wonder if it's practice or workouts. Are they starting practice?
No, not official practice. It's practice. Come on.
We
Come
are
on, Bill.
in the open.
Oh.
That's Patrick these days, Raphael.
Guys, right.
Bill Guster stepping to the podium 1 week from today. Let's say you're Shane Beamer. You are asked one of your first questions. All right, how are you handling this name, image, and likeness deal with your players? What is the ideal answer you think Shane Beamer or any other college coach throws out in this new era of college sports?
Well, I think the answer, to me, you've got to be kind of politically correct here because, again, to go to tie back in the end of last hour, I don't know if a coach can necessarily help himself, but I can definitely see where they hurt themselves right here. I can definitely see where the wrong answer. So I think you gotta go up and you say, well, number one, we're excited that players can actually profit off of their image, off of their ability. For too long, I think you look at it, players have not been able to profit. The money's gone elsewhere. Now this is a really good thing for my players, for our school, for everybody involved. So we're there for them. We are there to help them, guide them through the process. If you're Shane Beamer, you're going to say, hey, we've partnered with, again, Company X. I forget who South Carolina exactly is partnered with, and they're doing a fantastic job. Altus, thank you. Altus is doing a fantastic job. We're excited to be involved with them. We're excited for them to show not just our football players, but all our players across the entire athletic department the opportunity to give them the ability to showcase their name, image, likeness, and make some extra money. So we're very excited about it here. We still have a job to do with getting out and playing football, and our guys know that. They've been very cooperative in balancing both parts, and I'm very excited to help them through this process, but also to get back on the football field here in a few weeks and get the practices going with the guys. There's your answer.
Yeah. So that would be one like I fast forward through, or like, hey, we're not going to replay that answer on the show. And not what I was looking for.
I'm not out there to give you the.
No, okay, I get it, and I don't disagree with your philosophy here. That's kind of what coaches will need to say right now. Let's go the other way then. What is the exact wrong answer that coaches can hurt themselves with at this point of the name, image, and likeness evolution?
Well, this would be the incorrect answer. Come out. Yeah, it's been something that obviously has been coming for a long time, and we as an athletic department have tried to prepare our best for it. But quite frankly, this is not going to help our program. I think it takes away from what is amateurism at the college level and how student athletes should go about their job of not only playing sports, but getting their education that's paid for. And I worry about this affecting not just my football team, but sports at the collegiate level, because I think it takes away from our athletes doing what they need to do, which is focusing on their education and focusing on our program as a whole to better themselves for the next level. Obviously, it's a new era, and I have to accept that and move forward with it. And we've done a good job partnering with Company X to make sure these players are ready to go. But the bottom line is I have a job at this university to coach football and to win games. And name, image, likeness is not part of what I signed up for. I understand, again, it's part of the new era, but that's where our company comes into play. And that's who I'll let handle the situation.
Justin on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line immediately Bill's on the hot seat for that first answer, and now he's fired for the second answer. Well, he wouldn't be both of those guys. Justin, he's one or the other. And Matt says, what's the wrong answer? How about read Dabo's answer from 2014? I get it. And then Tiger Bob was defending Dabo Swinney earlier, saying that was not – he didn't want players to be paid a salary by the school. The NIL will not pay all players, only the elite. Well, Tiger Bob, that's not the case. Maybe the elite marketers, right? But not necessarily the elite players. No one really knows right now who is going to benefit the most from the college athlete standpoint. We don't know. Is it going to be the Heisman Trophy winner every year? Is there going to be an automatic? Is Nissan going to sign on with them since they sponsor the Heisman Trophy and also make them an immediate spokesman? Would make sense to me, right? Why not? And then I would think it would be like the people at the Heisman Trust that would be worried about their partnership. The money's always come into them, right? As opposed to going straight to the players. Is it going to be more of these social media superstars, at the University of South Carolina, the women's basketball players? There's 2 Fresno State basketball players who have partnered with a national cell phone company. It's going to be more of that. Travis on the live stream mentioned that, what is it, an LSU who is big on social media. Is it going to continue to be that? Or is this thing going to evolve so far to kind of more what Tiger Bob is saying? And I think more of how most of us have looked at this thing like, oh, it's only going to be those guys that we used to see on billboards, a Jadeveon Clowney type face of the program, Marcus Lattimore, Connor Shaw type for the Gamecocks, Deshaun Watson, Trevor Lawrence type for Clemson, where these guys are on the cover of magazines. And now they will have to be compensated for that. None of us really knows how this is going to go. But we do know that a guy like Dabo Swinney, who came out and was very vocal about the current setup for college athletics, and back in 2014 when he mentioned sticking with that, and the old school model of amateurism, right? I think what we're going to get, Bill, from these highly paid CEOs of college football programs is now a challenge, I think, or maybe a reset for how they see amateur athletics go, and the delineation that the name, image, and likeness is giving us, right? And they're going to continue to say, hey, this is still amateur athletics. These guys, we're not paying them. So from our standpoint, this is still the way it's always been. Same deal from us, from the athletic department. We're giving them scholarship and they get a stipend, but that's it. These aren't pro guys. We're still treating our guys the same. It's everybody else who's coming in that, first of all, we're concerned about that. We're going to make sure that we set up our guys with the right people out there, because that's what our university can do for them. And then we're going to make sure to point them away, steer them away, to protect them from bad deals. And we've seen guys graduate from our program that got into bad deals, and we weren't able to help them then. Now we can help them. I can see that being the sales pitch for a lot of college football coaches at this point. But it is going to be really, really interesting to hear. I don't know if there's a right answer or a specific wrong answer right now. I think only time is going to tell, and where a program's trajectory goes will probably be a really good guide for us here in the next few years, Bill.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because it's football related, and that's what right now, at least that's what we all cling to and we wait for, and you want to see. There's so many opportunities. I think it was Saturday, maybe, I don't know. Austin, out of the blue, is like, you know what I miss about video games? I was like, what do you miss? He's like, the college basketball game. I'm not sure you were alive the last time it was made, so I'm not. He's like, no, you had it on the PlayStation. He's like, the PlayStation 2, the old PlayStation 2 you had, and I was able to play. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. He's like, I really hope they come back out with that. I was like, well, then I'm trying to explain to him, like, there's a good chance that you can see that. And you're right. Think about that. If you're a Heisman winner and you're coming back to school, we've seen freshmen now win the Heisman. You're coming back to school, and EA Sports can somehow get this game going again. Yeah, the person who wins the Heisman instantly could be on the cover. That could be your sponsorship. That could probably be worth a good chunk of change there. Maybe you get $10,000-$15,000 for that to be the sponsor. I don't know what the people get from Madden. I'd actually be fascinated to find that out. I'll research that in the break here and see if we can discover maybe what the sponsorship or what the endorsement money is for being on the cover of Madden whatever year. But that would be an interesting question. But I'm with you, and I think coaches. I think we both agree. I think you will agree with me on this. The answer that you get from coaches publicly, how often do you think that's the same answer you get privately?
Not often, usually, especially for SEC head football coaches at SEC Media Days. But I do think what we heard from Frank Martin last week, and Chris hits us up on the Facebook live stream, says the right answer from coaches right now is Frank Martin's. I think it is what Frank really feels about it, and that's kind of who he is most of the time with his public comments. But I don't know if that's the right answer, like Chris is saying. I would be shocked if Nick Saban and company, Kirby Smart, Dan Mullen, come out and say, yeah, I hope our guys make every last penny that they can make right now, because lawmakers and the NCAA screwed it up and didn't put any guidelines on it, and our players should basically take advantage. Kind of what Frank said last week. But Frank also mentioned that now he's put in a situation where he's going to be the one that has to manage a guy coming in on a big deal, and then a guy who's been in the program and who's got a sock deal, I think is the analogy he used or the example he used, and then the kind of the imbalance in the locker room. I don't think as a college sports fan public, Bill, that we are going to feel bad for another thing to manage for these multi-million-dollar coaches. Are you with me on that? Like, especially Nick Saban comes out and says, I can't believe I'm now going to have to talk to a guy about his endorsement against another guy. They played the same position, and they're endorsing things for rival companies. I mean, never thought I'd have to. Guess what? You mean $9 million or whatever it is. Figure it out. I got no sympathy for you. I don't think that's where college coaches will go, because I think they are savvy enough to understand how that will be perceived. Trey says, I can't wait for a Professor Leach answer. Yeah, what Mike Leach has to say about this, and Lane Kiffin, just the two Mississippi guys, I think will be wildly interesting. I'm hoping anyway that we will get some of these honest answers. I'm hoping coaches will feel free, I feel like Frank did last week, because it's so early in all of this that the initial thoughts and impressions can get out there honestly, and then you adjust from there. The problem with that, coaches would probably see, and PR people would advise them, is that then their initial thoughts might end up getting held against them. Obviously, like Dabo Swinney's take back in 7 years ago is certainly being held against him and being used as an example of a coach out there who is kind of going back on his word or changing his tune. And I'm not saying that overly sensitive Clemson fans. I'm saying that I get what Dabo was saying back then. I think he was saying what probably 90% of coaches believed, and now they're having to make the adjustment. But let's be all very clear as well. There are a lot of complications that come with this thing, man. And so I get where they were coming from, but I also hold them completely accountable for not going up the food chain and putting the pressure on their presidents, and then therefore the NCAA to have a set of regulations in place for this when it actually came down, because they got caught with their pants down, and now they have to pay the price for it. And I got no sympathy for the NCAA, kind of what Frank Martin was saying, even in his position of leadership and all of that.
I like where Trey on the live stream has taken this. He says I can't wait for Professor Leach's answer. That brings two questions to my mind, Tim. Who are you most interested to hear speak on this? Who are you most interested to hear? Who do you think is most likely to put their foot in their mouth over the next few weeks? One coach is going to slip up, right? There's going to be one instance where, and I say slip up, maybe he doesn't slip up. Maybe a coach just comes out and says exactly what he thinks. Just goes off on it. Who do you think, who are you most interested to hear from on this? Who do you think most likely messes this up?
Yeah, I don't know if you can mess it up right now, because even if you say something, it doesn't mean players can't go out and do whatever they want to do. What it is right now, Casey says it's the Wild Wild West. I'm not sure if it'll ever be reeled in. That was, I think Frank Martin used the cat's out of the bag. Don't know if you can put the cat back in, kind of thing. I don't know if we're even. That's kind of the weird place that we're in, Bill. I don't know how you can put your foot in your mouth here. Trey says Dan Mullen for sure, and he thinks the best answer will come from Lane Kiffin. I wouldn't be surprised. That those are two good candidates, no doubt. I mean, I guess the only way would be, hey, we're not going to allow it in our program. I have told our players, I know that's the rule. I realize that's where we are in college sports, but if you come to the University of X, you're signing up for a different deal. We're going old school. I would think that would be the complete wrong answer, and that would be a bit of a program killer. Other than that ridiculously kind of overstated ideal, I don't think they can screw it up that much right now, because we are just at the beginning stages of all this. Who knows? But it will be interesting to hear how these guys approach it, because, Bill, to me, what SEC Media Days has become, unfortunately, with a lot of the Nick Saban models out there with Will Muschamp and Jeremy Pruitt and Kirby Smart, here in the last several years, being taken over as head coaches in other programs, is they're following his very process-driven and maybe analytical is the best way to put that, or just his approach. And then you get that very much kind of corporate coach speak during SEC media days. I'm interested to see now with a guy like Shane Beamer coming in, a guy that I don't think we really know. If Clark Lee walked up to me right now, the new Vanderbilt head coach, I don't know if I would recognize him. With Lane Kiffin being thrown in as a complete kind of wild card, kind of old school throwback, who is willing to take his own unique approach into some of these things, and having Mike Leach out there as a complete outlier as well, I think we're going to get a lot of different perspectives on this. I'm hoping we won't get just boring old coach speak. Here's what my athletic department's PR people are telling me to say, so I'm going to say it because I'm the CEO of this multi-million-dollar money-generating machine, and that's what we need to do right now, especially after losing a bunch of money in a COVID year, and knowing that selling season tickets might be more important at our university now than it's ever been. What do you think? Are we going to get an interesting conversation about this at SEC Media Days, or are we going to get typical, relatively boring coach speak?
Yeah, I think we're going to get – you're right. There will be – and Lane Kiffin's a good one. Mike Leach will go off on – maybe he'll compare it to Bigfoot or aliens. Who knows what exactly Mike Leach might try and do. I mean, I do think they'll be interesting, but I think the majority of it will be coaches who don't really care to deal with it but know they have to speak on it. And I think a lot of it is just going to be kind of throwing it back on the athletic department or on the company that is affiliated, that has become affiliated with, their college, their athletic department. Now, what will get an interesting answer is if somebody actually goes out and brings up Miami specifically and starts getting into and starts getting into your pay for play versus with this and how this is going on.
803-404-6100. Interested in hearing your thoughts this morning? You can call or text. Hour number 3 of the early game rolling on here on 107.5 The Game. It definitely won't be all about that, Alan, but it will be a large part of it, for sure. I would think, unless these coaches just give brutally boring answers, which is highly possible. And that sounds about right, Casey, to me. Be awesome if Kiffin came out and said, just starts lobbying for his boosters. All right, guys, I heard there was a corporation out there called Elevate the Rebels. You guys need to sign up for it. You can go to the GoFundMe page right now, donate $500. You do that, I'll send you an autographed picture. I mean, if anybody could pull that, it would be Kiffin, wouldn't it?
I think Kiffin will do something. I don't know. Who knows if he can range it in just a tad?
I don't think so.
I'll be honest, I hadn't really followed him in the offseason, so I don't know what exactly Ole Miss looks like.
No, they got the top returning quarterback in the conference.
Well, now here's the interesting part. His quarterback, Matt Corral, I think was charging $10,000 for either an appearance or his NFT.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, Matt Corral was thinking was going to get paid on this sucker. Every time I see you hold that up, that bottle, I bought a bottle of sake over the weekend, and it looks exactly like that. And so it caught me off guard. I thought you could freeze sake.
Okay.
You can't.
Okay. Why did you think you could? And why would that be consideration here.
I wanted it cold, like I was just going through the store Saturday, and there was like a bottle. It was actually really funny. There was a white bottle of sake that was premium sake. It was like $12, and then there was another bottle next to it, a black bottle. They were real cool looking bottles, and that just said super premium sake, and it was $15. There was no like, I was like, oh, I'll just go with premium for right now.
And what makes it so super premium?
Yeah,
Other than $3.
I was like,
Hangover.
oh, well, okay. Oh.
Sorry, we're listening to Bill's spot for the Lexington County Gamecock Club. It's 2 weeks from today. Is that right?
2 weeks from today, yeah.
Shane Bieber is going to be at Williams-Brice. You can buy tickets. How much are tickets? Did it say?
I don't think that was on my sheet, actually. Just go to Eventbrite. Go to Eventbrite. Welcome Home Tour. Eventbrite. Go there. I guess search Welcome Home Tour. Oh, by the way, I looked this up. This is a tweet from last March of 2020. It said, with the CBA approved, the NFLPA informed players they'll finally get their Madden checks that had been held in a work stoppage fund. The 2017 active player payment is $17,662, and the 2018 payment is $16,966 to be paid out ASAP. $1,000 for practice squad guys. 2019 payments paid this fall. So those numbers, 17,662 and 16,966, I'm guessing there's no way that that's per player, right?
No, it is per player. Yeah, I was going to say it's a Players Association deal. And
a check for $18,000, basically $17,000 and $18,000, or they got checks for being in Madden.
Yep.
Dang.
Jan, thanks. $35 to go to that Gamecock Club thing.
Yeah, unless you want a reserve table, that's $500.
Thank you, Jan. Yes, I didn't.
Kids general admission is $15.
And yeah, so that's where I don't think you get a bonus at all for being on the cover, Bill.
Oh, it says in this article, it doesn't say how much.
Oh, you do?
It says it says the cover athletes like Patrick Mahomes from Madden 20 and Antonio Brown from Madden 19 are likely paid very handsomely while having to deal with the Madden curse, of course.
But it's because I was doing some searching for a while, and it's kept pretty tight under wraps. You know, you can see that like Madden gets paid like $2 million for the use of his name and stuff. But did you see 22 is going to have Tom Brady and Mahomes?
Huh.
Yeah, I think I saw where it would have two of them. It says here, it says the players who are not on the cover, though, get a much more modest check.
Right.
So I guess we're labeling, I guess in that industry, $17,000 and $18,000 is labeled a more modest check.
No doubt. With no Patrick today, I believe he was able to watch it, though. He'll be doing Heath's show all afternoon starting tomorrow.
Patrick actually may be in mourning today. He was big into England.
All right, we're back in.
Getting the bar singing God Save the Queen or something he said on social media, I think.
Jeez. All right, you guys are up.
Alan, YouTube live stream. I hope SEC Media Days is not going to be all about name, image, and likeness. Don't worry, Alan. It will not be all about it. But, Bill, don't you agree? There's going to be a lot of questions, and it will certainly be an angle that a lot of people will take into this. And I think another reason doing it this year is, first of all, it's new, and it will not necessarily, we haven't gotten just the stock answers that you know you're going to get from these head football coaches this time of year traditionally, just because of the new situation we're in.
What do you think? Over under? Because there's only so many ways you can ask the name, image, likeness question. And Alan got me thinking about it because my initial reaction was like, "Buckle up, buddy. There's going to be a lot." But I don't know how many questions you can necessarily ask one coach. So what do you put the over under at? 4.5 name, image, likeness questions per coach. 3.5.
I don't know, when you get Anthony just hit us up, and I guess Darren Ravel was recently on the Dan Patrick Show, and he said he could see Arch Manning making $10 million as a freshman in college. When you get those kind of numbers thrown out by a guy who makes his living basically following the finances of sports, then you can ask it a lot of different ways, man. A lot of different ways. And then Jam brings up Master P's son, who signed a $2 million deal with the tech company and the whole deal. And
Yeah, but hold on. Those are two.
play basketball.
Yeah, those are different. That's different because I think Arch Manning, while being a big time football recruit, is profiting more off of the family name in that scenario. Just like Hersey Miller, I believe was him. I did read the article on Miller because it's kind of interesting, but his father has set all that up for him. By the way, there was a lot in that article that I read. And I forget, I meant to tweet it out last week because I didn't realize that Master P, I think it's Percy Miller. Is that right? Does that seem right to you?
Sounds right.
Has made a pitch to be the head coach of the New Orleans Pelicans. Like, is really putting it out there that he's the guy for the job. But I mean, he had all of this set up for his son, Percy, who is benefiting because his father is in entertainment and has been able to do this his entire life. So that's a little bit different. I see that. That's basically, I don't put that on the kid. That's getting money from basically your parents because Master P was able to go in and have all this set up, and now it's just perfectly legal for it to go straight to his son with the $2 million name, image, likeness deal. So different. Arch Manning, same thing. A little bit, it's going to be different because of who Peyton is, because of who his uncle is in Eli, even because his dad is in Archie. So a lot there that he'll be able to use from the family standpoint. It's not going to be that way for everybody. I probably should go back and look and just say who the top. I don't think on 24/7 Sports, Arch Manning is the number one player in the country, but I'll confirm that here in a minute. I think it's somebody else. And my question would be, is that guy going to make $10 million? Because if he's not, then everything. Yeah, the top guy is, according to 24/7 Sports, the top guy is Lebus Overton, a defensive lineman, 6'4.5", 265, out of Alpharetta, Georgia.
And no experience. No.
I mean, no, right?
There's so much more that comes into cashing in on your name, image, and likeness than just athletic ability. And that's the part that coaches will have to manage as well, or people within their organization will have to manage. And I think a high level of their concern is just that. And we don't get that from the outside looking in. Coaches don't make that public. Players usually leave that in the locker room as well. The locker room issues like that. And I think coaches understand, Frank Martin certainly seemed to understand that that's going to be a concern moving forward, or another factor in locker room dynamics for sure. How much these college football coaches make that part of the conversation will be part of what we get to hear next week for sure. Several of you weigh in on this thing on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line. GS says, smooth NIL transition for Lane Kiffin. Ole Miss has as much experience as anybody with player compensation programs for years. The cocky codger. Go ahead, Bill.
I'm just laughing at this because we can all see this. I don't know if this is a realistic situation, but we can all you can envision something like this happening. Your quarterback is, say, sponsored by one restaurant. Your wide receiver is sponsored by another one. Restaurant for the quarterback says, hey, man, maybe don't throw to him quite as much. Target the number 2 guy. Throw it to the tight end. That's it. And all of a sudden, the number 1 wide receiver, his targets go down or his catches go down, and then everybody blames it on a name, image, likeness war. Oh, he stopped throwing to him to take away his numbers so that he wouldn't that his restaurant wouldn't get mentioned as much. Yeah.
Well, how about the offensive line at Arkansas, sponsored by the local barbecue joint? the quarterback typically takes out offensive linemen, and they revolt against him, or they require him to only take them out to their barbecue joint. We can't be seen at restaurants, man. You know that, especially the ones that aren't serving barbecue.
Yeah, or
it does.
another barbecue joint. Another barbecue joint sponsors the quarterback, and he magically gets sacked a lot more.
Exactly. Cocky Codger weighed in, and this one, I guess I should expect these things, but it keeps making me shake my head. He says, all kidding aside, I'm glad I enjoyed the era of amateurism in college sports before the cancer of ESPN took over. That era is over and actually has been for a while, of course. I hope folks enjoy the all pro sports all the time era. Just my opinion, humble as always. Come on. Seriously? So if you're going to tell me that's been over for a while, of course, when ESPN popped up in the 80s and they got Big East basketball to fill a lot of their time. That's when I was growing up, and I remember those. I mean, that 30 for 30 on the Requiem for a Big East, it's fantastic. It was a great time to be a college basketball fan, and I got to see a lot of those games solely because of ESPN. Those of us who love college baseball, we're able to watch a ton more of it now, basically solely because of ESPN. So there are a lot of good things as well. I'm not trying to sell you that it's 100% altruistic and just for us sports fans to enjoy the games that we love. No, they're making money, no doubt about it. But as with nearly every money-making venture, there are pros and cons. And I am willing to accept some of these cons to get all these pros. I think overwhelmingly it has benefited those of us who love college sports as opposed to taking away. And now the fact that these 18 to 22, 23-year-olds that have been busting their butts for decades and decades, and I've just been enjoying the fruits of their labor as I sit back and eat and drink and enjoy them playing games, now that they can get paid a little bit for it too. I just don't see it as the end of an era and totally spoiling what has been pure before. I think that's just whitewashing it. But that's I appreciate you weighing in on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line. 803-404-6100. Same number for the Love Chevy phone lines this morning as we're rolling on after a exceptionally internationally driven weekend. Is that the best way to put it, with those two big soccer tournaments? And maybe, Bill, this is another example of how television networks and the proliferation of sporting events on TV for us in this country. Like, I never even knew about the Copa America tournament growing up at all, or even the Euro Championship. I don't remember when it's been and anywhere on the blip of our radar, I guess, here in America as sporting events up until the last few years, as Premier League soccer has become much more popular because of TV. I think has factored into that as well as international soccer. And another example of how things are continuing to evolve here.
You're asking me I don't think, obviously you don't follow soccer a lot, as we've pointed out. I'm not exactly following it much more than you have, but I guess I've gotten more involved in the last couple of weeks. Look, if I had not started following the Euro Cup, and Patrick kind of got us into that, I honestly probably would not have known much about Copa America or the Copa, whatever's going on. I wouldn't have
You knew that they were broadcasting from the specific place that they were broadcasting from was the Copacabana.
Could have been.
Come on.
About it.
Wow, unbelievable. But
Playing some Barry Manilow.
but no, to answer your
Just
point,
starting out.
really, some of this past weekend, because you mentioned it, I was into Wimbledon. I did watch international soccer. I was watching the Scottish Open. Like, it was one of these weekends in America where there wasn't a lot going on. You had NASCAR, you had the Farmers Open, which not the Farmers Open. You had the John Deere Classic. I mean, here, when we talked about sports this weekend, part of my television watching was celebrities playing golf, not actual golfers. Although Annika Sorenstam, she was a golfer, right?
Yeah, I had to explain that to my kids. And they're like, so golfers can be in this thing? No, golfers can't be in this thing. It's got to be a celebrity. Well, she's also kind of a celebrity. Well, what is she known for? Playing golf.
Yeah. Okay, just to make sure we had to have
right.
those.
She was the exception here. She was the exception in the American Century Classic Championship, I guess, out there in Tahoe. That John Smoltz ended up going into a sudden death playoff with Vinny Del Negro, and former NC State basketball player, Chicago Bulls player for a while. He ended up coaching the Bulls as well. Ended up winning that thing on one hole in the sudden death deal.
Yeah.
But my question, Bill, was simply, were these things ever on your radar? And I think your answer is they're not. They're hardly on your radar now. I think what we're seeing in our country is that it's just grown, and a lot of it is because of television networks feeling like they can make money off of it.
If there had been a good American golf tournament this weekend, I just couldn't get into the John Deere Classic. The Scottish Open had John Rahm in it and some other big names. Wimbledon, again, the things that I typically would not have watched, but again, because outside of college baseball, outside of Major League Baseball and then NASCAR, I don't think there was much going on the sporting landscape. I've really struggled, and I think everybody is, because as I say this is how crazy it is right now with where I am. Totally forgot about the NBA Finals, Tim. Like, I'm so checked out on the NBA right now. For a person who's banged the drum for the NBA for the last 2 or 3 years, I am so checked out on the finals. As I rattled off everything going on, one thing that I forgot about is the NBA Finals right now with the Bucks and the Suns.
Well, you need to check it out a little bit. I watched towards the end of the first half when the Bucks went on a heck of a run, and Chris Middleton and Giannis Antetokounmpo leading the way there. Middleton being a South Carolina product from down in Charleston, and I am a fan of the way that Milwaukee has embraced this run, man. I get it that they're a small market and they don't have the traditional superstar. I get that Giannis is a superstar in the basketball world, but I don't think in a country he's up there in the top 10 maybe of superstar athlete endorsers kind of thing. So maybe this does all kind of circle back around to this NIL thing. But the way that they're embracing it up there, I think the way they did an intro was like, this is not a college football game. This is actually outside of Milwaukee's basketball arena, and there are thousands of people out there that couldn't get in the arena, and inside the arena it was pretty nuts as well. So the atmosphere was really good last night, and the Bucks did what they had to do in winning Game 3 to cut the Suns lead to 2-1. I understand where you're coming from though, because I made the decision right there at halftime. I'm like, I'm not gonna watch this. It still didn't bring me in to stay up as that late. But now that the series is 2-1, I'm much more interested in game number 4, because then, to me, that's the decisive game, whether this is going to be a really good series or whether the Suns can kind of go in cruise control up 3-1 winning on the road. But I think it is a more difficult ask for a lot of us who even like basketball to get into this series specifically, just because of who the Phoenix Suns and Milwaukee Bucks have been for decades and decades, and where basketball has been now, because it's almost been an ongoing season. They got very little off season after having the bubble. They did the bubble thing with no fans, which was, wildly unique. And then we saw kind of the same old result out of that, right? LeBron James and Anthony Davis take the Lakers to the championship over a bit of a surprise run from the Heat to the finals. And we've seen the opposite kind of result happen. But when you hear the league superstar and LeBron James kind of blaming injuries on the schedule setup and the way that the NBA did the season, I think it's difficult for a lot of people to get really invested and to feel good about watching the NBA in a lot of ways. That's just maybe it's just my opinion, but it's kind of how I see things. But I like watching Devin Booker play. I like watching the Suns play. They got Ayton is 22 years old, and their coach is an impossible guy not to like in the Phoenix Suns, and knowing his story at all. And then you got the Bucks on the other side. You got Middleton hot and cold, and he was hot again last night. And then Antetokounmpo seems to be the best player on the planet right now at this point. So maybe that'll change your mind in the last few games, but maybe not. Maybe you're too checked out at this point. I think hockey got you, man. Hockey stole your NBA heart at this point.
It did. I missed some hockey. I was just pulling for the Canadians to win Game 5 just so we get a Game 6. That's all I was asking for. Just a Friday night Game 6. So,
but good news for you. A week from today, SEC Media Days kicks off, and we really get going from the college football perspective. Another welcome home tweet out from Shane Beamer yesterday. We will speculate on what that might mean, since there is no name attached to that, no other social media news out there from a player announcing his commitment to the Carolina football program as we sit here right now. Do that in the dramatic conclusion of the show coming up next year. It's the Early Game on 107.5 The Game.
Rolling through the month of July. It's July, actually. That's how fast the year is moving. It's absolutely incredible. Right now, though, you still got great opportunities if you've been thinking about refinancing your existing mortgage. You don't want to miss the great opportunity that's out there, and that's why Jacob Crowder and Brian Kovar, the mortgage guru team with First Palmetto Bank, they're there to help you. Give them a phone call this morning, 803-719-1005. I said you don't want to miss the opportunity. Brian tells you you don't want to get caught watching the paint dry. Big Hoosiers fan, loves to say it every time I see him. Don't miss the golden opportunity that Jacob and Brian can help you with. 803-719-1005. Again, look at your mortgage statement. Check out the equity you have. Look at the interest rate. You might be able to use both of those to your advantage. Save money, get a lower interest rate. Just find out. Give them a phone call. That's all you need to do. See what they can do for you today. 803-719-1005. Again, he's Jacob Crowder. He's the mortgage guru for a reason. You can also email him, the letter J, Crowder, CROWDER, at firstpalmetto.com. That phone number again, 803-719-1005. He's the mortgage guru, Jacob Crowder, with First Palmetto Bank. Oh, it looks like Vinny Del Negro got emotional after he won.
Yeah, he's talking about his dad who recently passed away, I think.
Oh, okay. I can see it on television here, but I can't hear it, obviously.
Bill, the TV nerd in me wants to do a montage of you getting out of your chair. Oh.
I have noticed that there is whatever commercial it is. I am definitely a noisemaker when I sit down or stand up.
Me too, man. Same here. Be pretty active this weekend. Got to play a little pickleball yesterday.
Nice.
A little pickup basketball Saturday morning.
Oh, where'd that occur at a gym, or were you outside with some buddies in the neighborhood, or?
Yeah, we just got some old neighborhood dudes that got a weekly game going.
Fun.
Yeah, Hope, we haven't really put that out pointedly because we play all the games on our sister station on the AM, and then we kind of plug them in on over here on the FM on 107.5 The Game when we can. And during Gamecock baseball season, it doesn't happen that often, if that makes any kind of sense. And then when football season hits, obviously there'll be some conflicts as well, so it's a little tricky. But you'll hear them for sure for the next solid month. 6 weeks?
Yeah, where are we at here? What's the countdown now?
For football?
Yeah.
We are at 50.
In the 50s. Beautiful. Man, it just seems like we kicked off 100 the other day. Great.
Wow.
Yeah, it's flying by.
Yeah, brutal. Wow. And I felt like it was a big parenting moment for me. I was like, oh man, I got to tell my kids this. My 6-year-old has an Acuna jersey.
Oh, really?
Yesterday we were out playing home run derby before we played a little tennis with his backwards Wimbledon hat, but they handled it pretty well. I'm like, yeah, you got hurt. All right. Well, it's helped too that YouTube TV didn't help me out at all, and basically got booted the Braves off this year, so we haven't watched nearly as much this year as we did last season.
Yeah, they don't have the Fox Sports Network anymore.
That's because it doesn't exist. They call them Bally Sports now.
Right.
And however that thing went down, it meant that YouTube wasn't carrying them anymore. YouTube TV.
Well, but I don't think they carry. They don't carry like that. They didn't sign a deal with all those regional networks. Is basically
because I don't think they exist anymore, Bill.
Yeah, like Cubs games are on marquee.
Right? Where they exist now is just something with different names.
Yep.
And maybe not under the same corporate umbrella anymore. I don't get to that.
But really, who wants to watch the stupid Braves and stupid Cubs anyway? They just suck. Not that I'm bitter.
Not at all. Back on, Mud.
Yep, guys are up.
Another welcome home tweeted out by Shane Beamer yesterday. Even though this is a dead period of recruiting, he said he got a call, and that's how it can work in recruiting. It's a dead period. The coaches can't call out, but they can accept calls in. And another excited tweet yesterday that got Gamecock Twitter going and speculating who it might be. And the word, Bill, you mentioned from Hale McGranahan from the Big Spur is that a video is being completed or being shot and then completed, and that's one of the reasons for the delay right now and why the actual player hasn't come out and put his name to the news of the phone call and making a verbal commitment to the Carolina program. That would make it 16 now, by the way, and 24/7 Sports, the composite, has the Gamecocks at that same number in their national rankings right now for the class of 2022, 16th in the country. Rivals has Carolina a couple of spots higher at 14th in the country. 15 verbal commits right now in that class. And then I guess the 16th has happened. We just don't know who it is. Bill, if you had to make an educated guess right now, who is the one name that you would guess who's the one name that you guess actually made that call yesterday to Shane Beamer and we will know about here relatively shortly, I would imagine?
Yeah, I'll take a second stab at this because I thought the July 4th weekend, the Saturday announcement might be Keenan Nelson Jr., the defensive back out of Pennsylvania, the 4-star defensive back, and it ended up being Emory Floyd. A lot of rumors going around that Nelson has maybe been trending towards South Carolina after his official visit. It's really between them and Penn State at this point. And I'll take a chance. I think South Carolina has kind of worked its way into a good position there with him, and so that would be my guess, but it's nothing more than a guess, and who knows? He could just as easily commit to Penn State today, and it'd be somebody entirely different.
Well, when news comes out like that on a Sunday, you can always hit up our Hot Take hotline. It's there for you 24/7, 803-978-6654. If you need to vent or you have an opinion you would like to get out immediately, that's what that Hot Take hotline is there for you. 803-978-6654, sponsored by Twin Peaks for the men who never settle. Go see them down in the Vista at 600 Gervais Street. Been an interesting show where we have discussed soccer probably more on this show than maybe we ever have before. Didn't have Patrick here to balance us out or yell at us or maybe to vent his frustrations.
Oh.
England lost in the Euro final yesterday in the shootout to Italy. To break down the glorious victory by Argentina over Brazil for Lionel Messi over Neymar, even though you said Neymar could try to steal all the spotlight afterwards. But tried for 15 minutes, did you say, Bill?
Here's the big question we should try and find out. Since England lost, how was Patrick's attitude, and what kind of effect did it have on the girlfriend's family? Like, did they see a side of him that was questionable?
Oh,
That's a very good point. Might be one of the reasons why we will not hear from Patrick today, other than the originally scheduled to be off today, and he's going to be helping to fill in Heath's show for the rest of the week starting tomorrow afternoon. You guys bombard Heath with those questions today. I'm sure he'll love it. Dan Patrick Show coming up next year on 107.5 The Game. Thanks for listening to the early game. We'll talk to you tomorrow at 6.
Great.
Five streamers. Thanks. Appreciate it, Anthony.
Heath is gonna pound on you. And you're right, Alan. Oh.
You too, Hope. See you guys tomorrow, bright and early. This will be our last truly creative week of the year. Wouldn't you say, Bill? Is that fair?
No, I think we have 2 or 3 more, but just because we only get so much media day. Then you've got the end of the month. And I always think there's 1 week in August when everybody gets tired of talking practice.
I hear what you're saying, but I think we've condensed it a little bit because typically SEC Media Days the last few years has been this week, right? The week of a home run derby and all-star game. And
You
this
are right
year
about that, yeah.
they moved it up a week. So I think they've condensed it for us a little bit, and we'll kind of have the agenda set for us next week for college football. That's why I say this is the last week of really getting creative. So if you guys want to help out with that creativity, feel free.
So basically, you guys probably want to talk about the resurfacing that they're going to do in Atlanta because people are not happy about that.
For sure. That'll be 3 hours tomorrow.
You're right. I'm sure. I don't think it'll get 3 seconds. That was probably the most we got.
Whit, Chris, appreciate it. Alan, no, he's not doing the media. It would just be him sitting in a room basically by himself until about 8 o'clock where other people start showing up.
Yeah.
Which is what he's done in the past. And it's like,
Yeah, that's all I do. That's all
with
I do.
no
in the past.
coffee.
Right. Oh, and complaining about either the coffee that he's had or not the coffee that he's been unable to get.
Right, exactly.
But we
It
can
is a
reenact that. We'll
It is a
reenact
poor
that.
coffee situation there.
I prefer to watch the sunrise over Lake Murray myself.
Good point.
See you guys.